music!
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it. Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind?
That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like it being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan, cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when you run so close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it. Those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
But hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races, while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. You sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing is important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes, every gear change, every corner, perfect. You see it?
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do. It's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to the Grand Prix World Series. My name is Topher Smith, and I'm really excited to be presenting to you the return of the Grand Prix World Series for Season 3. Once again, we will be having two leagues of racing for you this coming season. League 1 made up of the drivers who retained their spot in League 1 from last season, and those who gained promotion from League 2 last season. And League 2 featuring those who are now entering the championship for the first time. Got some new names, some new teams and new drivers for you. This is going to be absolutely fantastic to see who will get the better of the others over the course of the season. Taking you through the calendar to start off with, the season will kick off today at the Sepang Grand Prix, Malaysia making a return to the Grand Prix racing scene, much to everyone's delight. People love for this circuit here in Malaysia. We will then move on to the Yeonggam Grand Prix, South Korea also making its return. And we had a really good race there last season. A lot of people surprisingly pleased with how that one turned out. So it has been put back into the calendar again. Round 3 will be the Sentul Grand Prix in Indonesia. We saw it in Season 1 and it is now back for Season 3. Fuji in Japan will make up the 4th round and the last race of the Asian leg. Before we move on to one race in Africa, Kyalami will be on the calendar for round 5. Then we head to Istanbul for round 6 before another new track on this championship. Istanbul moves to Misano for round 7. We did potentially have a look at Imola, but decided let's introduce a new circuit this time. And Misano will be the 7th round of the championship. Round 8 will be a fan-made circuit. Chris Cavaney, our very own Leighton House team manager, has gone to painstaking efforts to create a circuit for us. And we liked it that much, we put it into the calendar. We can't wait to see how that one turns out. And incidentally, after the 8th round of the championship, there will be a mid-season rookie test for the team's reserve drivers and any new drivers they feel like potentially evaluating for a future race seat. Round 9 will be a Brands Hatch in Britain before we go back to Hockenheim in Germany, and that will be the long tree circuit, going through the trees there. High speed, fantastic drama there last season. Pannonia in Hungary, one that might not be so well known to some of the people out there, but we have done tests on it and this is a fantastic track for racing. That will make up round 11 of the championship. Before we move on to Valencia, and no, that is not the Ricardo Tormo circuit, that will be the street circuit with the bridge and the fish markets and everything. Round 13 will see us move to the Americas. Buenos Aires makes up the Argentina round of this championship before going to Curitiba in Brazil. Then San Carlos in Venezuela, a couple of new countries for you on the calendar this season. And finishing off the season once again in Laguna Seca, that provided a fantastic season finale in Season 2. So once again, that has been given the privilege of hosting the final round of this season's championship. Now moving on to the teams and drivers that will be competing this season. We're going to start off with League 2, as that will be the first race we're broadcasting for you today. Mastercar Lola, run by Marcus Johansson, will be fielding Tatiana Calderon and Sebastian Ogier, who will be entering the season as a rookie. Calderon already done one season for us. Not too many results to write home about, but she's looking forward to a better season this time around. OJ, the world rally champion, how is he going to get on in this championship? Now he's moved over to single seaters. And next up, we have the LaRousse team, which has been taken over by Chris Hosey, who fields an unchanged lineup of Alexander Rossi and Callum Ilott. Both got one win apiece each there. Can they add to their tallies? We will wait to see if they can achieve such a feat over the course of this season. The reserve driver for that team, Narain Carter-Kane, will he get a call-up this season? We will see. Pacific Grand Prix retains its lineup of Brendan Hartley and Sergio Tete Camara, along with a reserve driver of Robert Wickens, but a new team principal in Kevin McMullen. He enters the championship for the first time and takes over the team with Cosworth engines and Michelin tyres. How will they fare, having the Season 1 vice-champion on their team? Scuderia Coloni, once again, Gemma Dixon takes on that team. Christian Lundgaard stays on board, having done a part season last time out. And Marcus Armstrong joins the field, the new IndyCar star, along with their reserve driver, Jaime Alguersuari. This should be a young, hotshot lineup to watch out for. How are they going to fare? Moving on to Zach Speed, Mike Smith carrying over both of his drivers from last season. Sam Bird and Lucas Di Grassi, both yet to win a race, but both up there fighting for podiums in the past. And a new reserve driver in Oliver Rowland, who moved over from Super Aguri after his one appearance at Laguna Seca last season. On to Force India, Ed Spencer bringing Jack Aitken into the team alongside Jerome D'Ambrosio. Raffaele Marcello also joining as a reserve driver. BMW engines will power Force India this season along with the Goodyear tyres. No wins and no podiums for these drivers yet, but Ed Spencer no doubt will want to make sure that they both get themselves onto the rostrum this season. The Real team, Ed Hunter staying there and keeping Mike Conway and Oliver Turvey alongside James Collado, who's waiting in the wings should either Turvey or Conway be unavailable this season. And Ed Hunter going for what some people think is a rather brave choice of taking on the Life engines for this campaign. Will they bring any life into the team? We will wait and see. Andrea Moda taken over by Lucy Ballwood, and she's gone for the real-life teammate pairing of Andre Lotter and Jake Dennis. They are teammates at the Andretti team in Formula E, now teammates in the Grand Prix World Series at Andrea Moda. Lotterer with 2 wins to his name. Jake Dennis, only 3 races so far, but he's looking to be competitive right from the off. Should either driver be unavailable, Charles Pic, the current manager of the Dams team in Formula 2, he will step up to the fold. Honda engines and Michelin tyres will power this team. Can they do any better than they did in real life? We will wait and see. Von Mittal, Ewan Gale, bringing on Pascal Wehrlein into his team, potentially a huge signing for the team given his pace in previous seasons. Alongside Marcus Ericsson, neither driver has won a race so far this season, but Ewan Gale wanting to go all the way to title with either of these drivers this year. Can they achieve that? We'll have to wait and see. Esteban Gutierrez, the reserve driver for this team here, along with Toyota engines and Michelin tyres. Potentially a team to watch out for. That's probably one of the stronger driver lineups on the grid. On to Ram Racing, and Ross McGregor's gone for a bit of an older driver lineup here with Alan McNish and Sebastian Loeb, the multiple rally champion. McNish with a 1 podium to his name. Can he get more on the board? Can Loeb potentially spring a surprise? He should have entered Formula 1 back in 2009. It didn't happen, but his tests leading up to that point mean he is eligible to enter this championship. And former DTM champion Gary Paffett will be the reserve driver for this team. Cosworth engines and Nankang tyres. It's a name you don't hear too often when it comes to single-seater racing. The Dome team, the rather stillborn project of the Japanese company. They wanted to enter Formula 1 back in the mid-90s. They are now entering Grand Prix racing for real in the Grand Prix World Series, and it's an all-Sato lineup. Takuma Sato, former Jordan racer and 2-time Indy 500 winner, will lead the team with 2 pole positions and a podium already to his name. He is joined by the rookie Kimiya Sato, along with the reserve driver Nobuharu Matsushita. This should be a fascinating driver lineup to watch out for, both very quick drivers. Carlin is made up of Luciano Becchetta and Fabio Lima. Perry Brown taking on a Formula 2 champion and a GP2 champion, an all-rookie lineup with their reserve driver not yet announced, but we will hope to have news of that in due course. The final driver lineup for League 2, Valentino Rossi moves over to Dams Viont effort led by Jake Sanson, and Théo Pourchaire enters the Grand Prix World Series for the first time. He's got himself a lot of podiums and race wins in Formula 2. Can he convert that into success here in the Grand Prix World Series? Or can the MotoGP legend Rossi spring a surprise? We will have to wait and see. Simona Di Silvestro ready to step in should either driver be indisposed. This is a driver lineup I think you guys should all be watching out for. And qualifying for the League 2 race was a closely contested affair. The top 19 drivers all within a second of each other. Very competitive. It promises to be a fantastic race if it's going to be that close. It was Marcus Ericsson and the Fonmetal who came away with pole position. A 1:37.4 saw the Swede beat out Andre Lotterer by just over a tenth of a second. Brendan Hartley very close behind Lotterer as well. Jake Dennis will be fourth on the grid in a second. Andrea Moda, both of them in the top four. Strong starts this season for Lucy Ball Wood's team. Sam Bird fifth for Zach Speed. He'll be happy with that starting position. Takuma Sato sixth in the dome ahead of Fabio Lima, Alexander Rossi, Jake Aitken and Pascal Wehrlein all round out the top 10 on the grid. Only 0.3 of a second between the top 10. How close do you want it? It's an all-Brazilian row 6 as Sergio Sete Camara and Lucas de Grassi are 11th and 12th. Callum Eilert 13th in the release ahead of Kimi Sato in 14th. 15th for Christian Lundgaard ahead of Tatiana Calderon. Alan McNish and Sebastian Loeb up together on the grid in the Rams. Luciano Becchetta and Mike Conway are 19th and 20th. And at the rear of the field, Jerome D'Ambrosio in the Force India ahead of Sebastian Ogier in the MasterCard Lola. Marcus Armstrong and Théo Pourchaire are together on row 12 and row 13 at the back. Oliver Turvey and Valentino Rossi 1.8 seconds off the pace. He would have wanted a bit of a better start to that, but the only way is forward, as they say. So there are your teams and drivers. There's only one thing left to do for League 2, which is race. Let's head down to Tom Cairns, who is ready to commentate on the action.
Well, it's been a long time since the Grand Prix World Series was held at Laguna Seca for its finale in Season 2. Well, the wait is about to finally come to an end. Will it be Marcus Ericsson or Andre Lotterer or even Brendan Hartley getting off the line first? The first League 2 race of the season, the Grand Prix World Series of Season 3, is about to begin. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights. The 5 lights are in your picture. It's lights out and away we go, and we see the field getting off the line. Ericsson seems to have got off to a very good start. Lotterer and Hartley are about to give chase. Watch out for Jake Dennis or even Takuma Sato, who's coming through the field a little bit as they come towards the first turn of the Sepang Circuit now, and it seems to be that Marcus Ericsson has taken an early lead in the Fonmetal by the looks of it. It almost looks like a Fonmetal, but we've got a couple of cars off. That is Sam Bird in the Zach Speed, and there's another car off with him at the first turn. We'll have a look to see who it is that's gone into the gravel with him at turn 1. So as they come towards the first corner, this is obviously a replay of the start, and it seems to me that it's very, very hard to tell. It looks like one of the Carlins in there has got involved in that, and we'll look to see who that is. There's a number of new teams involved in the Grand Prix World Series this season, so it's one of the Carlins that's gone in there. So it's Fabio Lima who came together with Sam Bird into turn 1, and it looks like he's gone in too deep, and he just almost used Sam Bird as a brake, and there they're both in the gravel, and qualifying positions are pretty much undone, because I think Sam Bird was 5th on the grid and Fabio Lima was a satisfactory 7th. So this is obviously another replay of the collision again, or the start, and you can see I think Lima was sort of sandwiched between the two Zach Speeds. That was Lucas de Grassi on his right and Sam Bird on his left, and he managed to take out the one on the left, which was Sam Bird, as a result of it. So we're right on the ball with Lucas de Grassi then. This is from his view of what happened. Oh, you can see he actually tapped Lima into Bird, so that's not completely Lima's fault. Going into turn 1, de Grassi did give him the slight nudge, but it was enough to put both Lima and Bird into the gravel trap at turn 1. So both drivers have a lot of work to do between now and the checkered flag. And Lima just pointing the car in the right way again. He's got with it all to do. So back at the front, we've got Marcus Ericsson in the race lead, and it's Andre Lotterer in second position. And race control have noted, well, they've come to a conclusion on the incident involving Bird, Lima and Degrassi, and no further action is going to be taken. So that's that sorted out already. So no driver is going to be given any form of penalty. But we're looking at Andre Lotterer, who's diving to the inside there. So Lotterer in the Andrea Moda, trying to make a move on Marcus Ericsson, who's made the switch over to Von Mittel this season. And we've got another car in the gravel trap, and it's at turn 7. That's Mike Conway in the Real. And who is he managed to come together? Is that a MasterCard low without a front wing on its wagon? I think it is. And Conway, trying to get past it, has spun by himself, and he's very much on the fringes of the gravel trap. I think he's pretty much in the gravel trap. So there's a MasterCard Lola that is circulating round without a front wing on its wagon. Now look to see who that is. It's either Tatiana Calderon or Sebastian Ogier. And that is an onboard camera of Mike Conway going for a spin. And he's fallen down to the back of the field, unfortunately, just waiting for Fabio Lima to go past, and Conway will rejoin. So it's been a setback for a number of drivers and team managers. So Conway rejoining, and we'll say that Ed Hunter is still the manager of the Real team, despite the team's problems in Season 2. It's a couple of years ago now since we did the last Grand Prix World Series race. We've seen Takuma Sato up the inside of Lotterer, and so Takuma Sato making the move for the Dome team that is managed by David Yuntz. So Sato up into second position. You can see the fastest start there. You can see on the caption on the right hand side that Sato has the fastest start, but I will guarantee you that the times will come down as we look back on Takuma Sato, who's trying to make a move on the race lead on Marcus Ericsson. And for once, actually, Von Mittel have found themselves at the front of the field, because Ewan Gale, who made his debut as a manager in the second season of the Grand Prix World Series, was sort of playing around for fun, if you want to call it, seeing both his drivers at the back of the field. But now this season seems to be taking it more seriously, as Oliver Turvey in the other Real running in 17th position. Looking to see where he was on the grid. You can see that Ogier has gone into the pits for a new nose cone, so he was in the Lola that was circulating round the Sepang circuit without a front wing. And Ericsson continuing on in the race lead. He's got Sato right all over the back of him, and it seems to be that Sato is running a... Could Sato be running a lighter fuel load? I will say that there'll be a mixture of 1 or 2 stoppers in this race. In terms of who will be doing that, well, that's anyone's guess. There's Christian Lundgaard for the Coloni team, going through turn number 11 without any issues there. It almost looked like he was about to outbrake himself, but no harm done for the Dane. So Christian Lundgaard, who was formerly part of the Renault Academy, or the Alpine Academy as it was, before he made the switch over to IndyCar following his Formula 2 commitments. And I think we're about to see a replay, because we've just seen a replay of Takuma Sato getting ahead of Marcus Ericsson into the race lead at the end of lap 2. So that is Sato into the lead, but how long? Because Ericsson is fighting back, and Ericsson's diving to the inside of the Japanese driver, as we watch Lotterer make a move on Brendan Hartley as well at the same time for third place. And so Ericsson is back into the lead, so only lost the lead for about a corner or so. And Sato will give chase again, as Lotterer will look to pull away from Brendan Hartley. You can see a new fastest up has been posted. That is from the Carlin of Fabio Lima. So Carlin, one of the many new teams in the Grand Prix World Series this season. Any new team that joins the Grand Prix World Series, or a team that missed the previous season, will be down in the bottom league. This is one of 2 leagues. This is League 2. The League 1 race will be coming up later on. And so Sato, who tried to make an audacious overtake on Ericsson into turn number 7, well, that totally backfired. He almost ran wide. He's fallen back into the clutches of the likes of Lotterer, Hartley, Dennis and co. as we continue on, and then you can see Jake Dennis making his move through the field, passing Hartley for 4th position. So Jake Dennis, who's showing his class so far in the Andrea Moda, who were well off the pace last season. But they have a new manager on board, that is Lucy Ballwood, otherwise known as Last Lap Lucy on her Twitter feed. Or Twitter profile, however you want to put it. So Brendan Hartley in the Pacific, staying on at the Pacific team despite a change of management. Last season it was Carter McColeman in charge of that squad. This season it's the Welshman Kevin McMullen. He has Brendan Hartley and Sergio Sette Camara as his drivers for the start of the season, at least anyway, depending on what he decides to do. And the Pacific team, looking at who they've got in the reserve and test driver role, they've got Robert Wickens and Pietro Fittipaldi. And we are seeing Dennis trying to fend off Brendan Hartley. I think Hartley might have got ahead of him at the last turn before Dennis fought back and took back the position. There is Teo Pourchaire racing for the Dams Viant squad, of which Jake Sanson is the manager of. The team using Ford engines and Michelin tyres for season 3. And in their reserve and test driver, we've got Simona Di Silvestro and Catherine Legg. So it's pretty clear that Jake has gone for the more sort of diverse route, or equality route. Simona Di Silvestro raced for the Mastercard Lola team last season, and there is Lotterer, who's got a problem. So that is the Andrea Moda's engine going up in smoke. So bad news for Lucy Ballwood, who's hoping for 2 cars in the points today. Well, her best hope is going to be 1, and she's got to hope that Lotterer doesn't end up becoming an obstacle course for the other drivers, because he's been hit from behind, and he's almost taken out. Who is it that is taken out there? I'm not too sure who it was that he's come together with, but who ran into the rear of Lotterer going into turn number 9. We'll find out in a moment. And he was hit from behind. Couldn't quite tell that. It was Sergio Sette Camara that hit Lotterer. So it was the second of the 2 Pacific cars that ran into the Andrea Moda. And we're looking on board from Sette Camara's point of view. I doubt this is his fault, to be honest with you. Although, to be fair, he could have gone to the left of Lotterer to avoid the collision, but just didn't really have anywhere to go, really. So you could say, well, why didn't Andre Lotterer get off the track sooner? Well, he's almost trying to get back into the pit lane. You can see race control have noted the incident involving cars 6 and 16. That'll be Sette Camara and Lotterer. No further action is taken. So race control decided that was 6 in one and half a dozen in the other, and Lotterer is about to pull off the racetrack now. You can see he's almost blocking the track. Oh no! That's a collision! And I think that's Sette Camara out of the race. I think he's been hit from behind by another car. He got held up behind Lotterer again. And who is that ran into him? It looks like one of the Colonis that ran into Sette Camara, and Sette Camara's race is finished. So he was showing around with a broken front wing for Sette Camara, and the driver that hit him was Marcus Armstrong. So Marcus Armstrong running into the rear of the Pacific, who was trying to stay out of the way of the alien Andrea Moda of Andre Lotterer. And so I think Armstrong could well be in a little bit of bother later on with the stewards for causing the collision, while Sette Camara was trying to avoid Lotterer. So Lotterer is out of the race, Sette Camara is out of the race, and that's a retirement for the parents. So it's a water leak for Lotterer, and we very much know what the problem for Sette Camara is. It's a broken wheel, or a crash if you want to put it. So 2 drivers out of the race then. We're on lap 5 of the Lead 2 Sepang Grand Prix, as Camilla Sato, who's running in 11th position through all the chaos, and the incident involving, oh dear, well, Marcus Armstrong, who involved in that collision with Sergio Sette Camara, has been hit with not only a disqualification, but a 1 race ban for the next round at Yongam. That is really bad news, that, for Kevin McMullen, as he'll want to have seen his driver get through the whole race and without any chaos. But now he'll have to put his reserve driver into the seat for the next round in Yongam. His reserve driver is the Canadian Robert Wickens. So we look at the Force India that are running their beautiful pink livery that Ed Spencer had decided to go for. I think that's their 2017 car. If that's the case, then that'll be the VJM 10, if I remember correctly. But there is the Force India going through. As we look at Takuma Sato in the dome, chasing down the race leader of Marcus Armstrong in the Fonmetal. As we look at Fabio Lima trying to make up for lost time following his mishap at the start with Sam Bird and Lucas Di Grassi. No action was taken, for your information, in case you've missed what the steward's verdict was on that. But Lima has some work to do, and this will be a good thing for him to challenge, actually, to see how many places he can make up before the end of the race. If he can make... Oh, and there's a retirement for Christian Lundgaard in the Coloni. So whilst Marcus Armstrong's in the wars following his collision with Sergio Sette Camera, it looks like Christian Lundgaard has pulled off the circuit with some kind of mechanical problem. It looked like an engine failure to me from the pictures of that, and it is an engine failure. So Christian Lundgaard becomes the third retirement of the race already, as the leaders have completed the 5th lap out of 41. There'll be a question as to how many cars will actually finish the race. So one Coloni left in the running. Gemma Dixon in charge of the Coloni squad. She's going to have her hands in her, well, head in her hands following the incidents we've seen so far involving both of her drivers. So her season couldn't have got off to a worse start, really, than what it already has. And so Lima locking up into turn 1. We saw an overtake further ahead. Couldn't quite tell who that was. Could well be Alan McNish that had made a move on Sebastian Lowe. Could well be wrong on that. It might have been Lowe getting past Bird, but we'll see further down the line anyway. Now the teams are running different liveries, or some of the teams are running different liveries to what they were running last season. So it's kind of difficult for me to tell what is what, given that we've got a number of new teams joining the Grand Prix World Series this season. Given that teams that have previously raced in the International Formula 3000, the GP2 Series and FIA Formula 2 have been granted an entry into the Grand Prix World Series to go with those ex-Formula 1 teams that had never won a Grand Prix in the history of Formula 1 that have been eligible to be allowed to compete in this championship. Force India, one of them of course. They didn't win under Force India, but they did win under their successors of Racing Point, thanks to Sergio Perez's victory in the Sakir Grand Prix in 2020. And so I've just seen that Sato has got in front of Ericsson now. So Takuma Sato in the race lead, but will Ericsson fight back? Here we go, look. So Sato on the outside, Ericsson on the inside in the red and black Fond Metal. We've cut away from that for a moment, but going back to it now. And Ericsson has got back through again on Sato. So Ericsson back into the lead. Sato second. There are two Satos in the field. Kamiya Sato, who's just got past Jack Aiken for 11th position. And there's an engine failure. Is that the race leader? It is! Marcus Ericsson's out! So Marcus Ericsson trailing smoke in the Fond Metal. Ewan Gale cannot believe it! And what's happened to Sato? Has he gone off the track? No, he just avoided the grass there as he tried to go round Ericsson. This is terrible luck for the Fond Metal team. Ericsson on lap 7 has got an engine fire and he needs to get off the circuit very quickly, does the Swede. And Brendan Hartley will go past very shortly as well. Oh, he's taking Hartley out. That was so close to being a nasty accident there between Hartley and Ericsson. Ericsson pulls off the track before turn 9. Ah, that's a terrible shame for Ewan Gale. Car in the lead. It's been a radical improvement on the pace from last season. But his cars, well, one of his cars is not going to make the full distance. And that is Jack Aiken pulling off the track too in the Force India. So Aiken out of the race along with Ericsson. It's almost turned into a car park, or a parking lot, or a car sale, or car boot sale if you want to put it in those words. But that's Jack Aiken, who has suffered a similar problem to what Ericsson has just had. And so that's another retirement. So that's 5 drivers out of the race so far, 21 still running. So Mike Conway's just gone through there in the Real, and Jack Aikens out of the race with an engine failure. Oh, Sebastian Ogier, who's yet to go through there actually, so he'll be 21st and last position. So that changes things at the front then. Kim Masato in the lead. Andre Lotterer is in second. Jake Dennis, I should say, is in second place. Lotterer is already out of the race, I should say. I forgot about that. Lotterer had already retired. So it's the other Andrea Moda that's in second place then. Ahead of Brendan Hartley in third. But we've now got a battle for fourth between Pascal Verline in the sole surviving von Mattel, diving to the inside of Lucas Di Grassi, and that has moved him up into fourth position. And we've got a car in the pit lane now as well. And it's one of the drivers at the back of the field, I believe. So it's a very early time for a pit stop. We're not expecting any pit stops for the 2 stoppers until around about lap 13 or 14. Those that are doing the 1 stops, probably looking at around lap 20, 21, 22 maybe. So just keep your eyes peeled on those who are going to go for the 2 stops, or seemingly going for the 2 stops, and those that are going on the 1 stop. That way you can keep us as to who is challenging for whatever positions in the latter stages of the race. So Turvey, who's running in P12 in the Real, that is going nicely for him. I think he's made of a fair number of places at the start as Oliver Turvey. Started 25th on the grid and he's already up into 12th position. So Turvey having a brilliant start to this race, and he'll be looking to get a points finish out of this, something of which Ed Hunter had struggled to get last season with his drivers in season 2. Sure, his aims will be going for promotion this season. I will mention that the top 3 teams at the end of the season will get promoted from League 2, and the bottom 3 teams from League 1 will be relegated to League 2. So a bit like a Premier League Championship sort of style, or how the English football pyramid works. But we will see some teams going down this season, some teams going up. That's the nature of the Grand Prix World Series for you. As we watch Alan McNish getting past what looked like Oliver Turvey, and he's put his Coloni by the looks of it, although I don't think it's a Coloni actually. No, it's not. Alan McNish, who was at Coloni last season, is now racing for the Ram Racing Squad, a team of which Jonathan Palmer had raced for in the early 1980s. It was a very inferior car back then. Now Jake Dennis running in P2 in the Andrea Moda. It'll be a great sight for Lucy to see her young driver doing so well in the Grand Prix World Series. Jake Dennis, of course, who has been somewhat in the reckoning for the championship in Formula E this season. And with 5 races to go at the timing of recording, anything can happen in Formula E. So fingers crossed to see how Jake Dennis gets on. Of course, he's got a home race to look forward to, or a home couple of races in London at the end of July. And so Brendan Hartley in 3rd place in the Pacific. So it's Dome leading Andrea Moda, leading Pacific, leading Von Mattel, leading Sack Speed. And then we've got Alexander Rossi, who's running in 6th place. And Rossi, who is racing for the LaRue squad, of which were managed by Will Knight last season, but he's moved over to the BAR squad. And so Chris Hosey taking over the LaRue's team. So Alexander Rossi's in 6th for LaRue's. It's Tatiana Calderon going nicely in the MasterCard Layla in P7. And it's Callum Ilott in the 2nd LaRue's in 8th. Camilla Sato in the 2nd Dome in 9th. And Jerome D'Ambrosio in 10th position for Force India. So they're coming around to, well, they've just done their 9th lap, these drivers. And we're seeing a move up ahead there. I think that was Oliver Turvey making a move on Alan McNish again, and he's gone back through into 12th place. So Takuma Sato, there's your race leader. Now, if you remember, those who follow the Grand Prix World Series very, very closely, including myself, he is one of a few drivers to have taken pole position on his debut when he came into the Onyx squad in Season 1 in place of Bruno Senna. And he was able to put the his car on pole for his first race, which was in Malaysia, I think, but it was not in Sepang. I think it was at a different circuit from my memory. It was the same race as where Pedro de la Rosa won for Prost. As we see what looked like the Dams Vion coming through, but this is the Dome coming over the line now. It's Kim Santo and Sebastian Ogier. You can see there's got 2 car numbers on that, so hopefully that'll be something to be amended for the next round in Yongam. Sometimes what you see on the car numbers may not be the car numbers of what we've got on our sheets here, because the car numbers are decided on where the teams ended up in the previous season. Now, Mastercard Lola finished bottom of the Constructors' Championship in League 1, which resulted in their relegation to League 2, have the car numbers of 1 and 2, and the reason why is because Prost and Midland, despite being relegated, were granted an entry back into League 1 because of the demise of the BMS Scuderia Italia team and the live squad that got promoted but folded following the departure of their previous manager. So we've seen Marcus Armstrong in the Coloni, who will be carrying a disqualification. Now, in terms of the rules for this season, from what was provided to me, there's been a revision in the regulations this season in terms of what kind of penalties get dished out. Now, in terms of the incident involving Armstrong and Sete Camera, that's resulted in a 1 race ban and a disqualification from this race. And the reason why, in fact, we'll come back to that in a moment, because we've got a battle for second place. There's some engine smoke in the background, but we've just seen Brendan Hartley going for a move on the inside of the Andrea Moda of Jake Dennis, and he can't quite pull it off there. So Dennis stays in P2, and that's an engine problem there for Alexander Rossi. So Rossi pulling off the racetrack on the exit of the last turn. I did say there was some smoke in the background, and I was right all along. So Rossi out of the race then. So that's the end of it for him. So that's one of the LaRussas gone from this race, unfortunately. So going back to what I was saying about the incident involving Armstrong and Sete Camera. So the outcome of that is that Armstrong's been given a disqualification and the 1 race ban, and the reason being is because of he caused the collision, which not only caused it but also caused the retirement of Sete Camera. And depending on how many cars you take out determines how long of the race ban you've got. So if you take out 2 cars, that results in retirements to both of those cars, and you keep going, you get a disqualification and a 2 race ban. That's just an example of it. Now that is subject to appeal. The manager of the team of which Marcus Armstrong is part of, which is Gemma Dixon for the Coloni team, they will be allowed to appeal these decisions, but there is a window in terms of how soon they can submit an appeal in relation to the incident or relation to the sanction of which their driver has picked up. So as it stands with the race ban for Marcus Armstrong, Jaime Alguersuari is the team's reserve driver, and so he at the moment would be filling in for him at Yongam next time out. So Takuma Sato continuing on in the lead, Jake Dennis in P2, Brendan Hartley 3rd, there's Pascal Verline, Lucas Di Grassi in 5th, Tatiana Calderon is 6th, then we've got Callum Ilott, Camilla Sato, Jerome D'Ambrosio and Teo Porcher in the top 10. So Teo Porcher running nicely there in the Dams Vion. And then we can see a move there from, that looks like a move on the Saxby. That is Alan McNish coming through. So Alan Manish running for the Ram Racing team with Ross McGregor as their manager. And now we're right on board with Brendan Hartley, Season 1 runner-up when he was at Manor. Won 3 races that season, struggled at the beginning of the next with the team before he was dropped. But the Pacific team gave him another chance, and he actually put in some stellar performances for them in Season 2. And now can he take them to League 1 next season? And what I will say is, if you are someone that is not currently a manager in the Retro Racing Managers League, but you fancy giving this a go, well, you can have a look in the YouTube description. There's in fact a Discord server of the Retro Racing Managers League in case you wish to get involved. Of course, you can contact Downforce Radio whilst you're at it, in case you are interested. And now we look further back in the midfield. There's Oliver Turvey, there's Alan McNish, and there's Sam Bird. Behind them is Marcus Armstrong, who's running in 15th place. Jake Dennis, who's running in 2nd position in the sole surviving Andrea Moda. So there's Bird, who's about to go up the inside of Alan McNish. And this is going to be a reverse of what it was on the previous lap. Bird passes McNish. There's your race leader as we watch Jerome D'Ambrosio in the Force India, running in 9th position. Now, Force India had a tough time of it last season. They began the first race of the season at Prix. They had Martin Brundle and Alex Zanardi, which didn't quite work out, unfortunately. So Jack Aiken was drafted in. And the other drivers of which Ed Spencer had in his squad were Sergei Sorokin and Alanson Jr. So Alanson Jr. was in the car in the first race with Alex Zanardi, and then Martin Brundle had 7 rounds with the team before he was dropped in favour of Sergei Sorokin. And Jack Aiken did very much every round from round 6 to the end of the season, except the 12th round of the championship, which he was given a 1 race ban for a collision which he caused in Magny-Cours. So Hartley in P3, Dennis in P2, Kim Santo in P1. Verline is in 4th place, going very well. They've got Lucas Di Grassi in 5th place for Zach Speed. There's Tatiana Calderon, Callum Ilott, Camilla Sato, Jerome D'Ambrosio and Fabio Lima in the top 10. And Lima's coming back through the field very nicely, thinking of it. So there's Sam Bird on the inside there of Oliver Turvey, and he was able to get a move done, so that's another position gain for him. We're on lap 15 of the race, 3rd of the way through already. And so far so good for the Dome squad. One driver running in the lead and the other in 8th position. So Jake Dennis is in 2nd place. As we look at this, is Luciano Bichetta looking to make a move. The number, well, he was in 19th position, but I think he's just made an overtake on someone. So Bichetta has moved up a position. Now I think he's substituting for Davide Falsecchi for this race, for reasons which are not for me to be mentioning on air. So Bichetta through into 18th position. Sebastiano is just on his own at the back in the MasterCard Lola after he needed to come into the pits for a new nose cone at the end of the opening lap. So it's just damage and limitation time, I think, and a lot of exploration for him. Understand the car, understand the tyres, understand the engine. And the MasterCard Lola, there are run by Marcus Johansson. The team using Saab engines and Nokian tyres. As well as Tatiana Calder and Sebastian Ogier, they've got Susie Wolf as their reserve driver and Mick Schumacher as their test driver. Mick Schumacher will most likely get a go in the rookie test later on in the season. And now we see a move there. I think that was a tap from Oliver Turvey on Alan McNish. Both drivers getting away with it. But now that's allowed Marcus Armstrong. Now that's been noted. The incident there involving cars 15 and 20. That'll be Turvey and McNish, and no further action has been taken to that, which I think is the right decision. There's Hartley in P3. Looking very, very good, but will his car last the distance? Bird trying to make a move. Oh, that was very close to contact there with the Dams Vion of Théo Pourchaire. Bird getting away with it. So nearly contact between those two. As we look at the Andrea mode of Jake Dennis once more. It's a very nice angle actually to pick up how a driver's getting on. As we look at Sebastian Loeb, the rally legend, who I think did a test with the Toro Rosso team or with Red Bull, whichever, which had granted him eligibility to compete in the Grand Prix World Series. And Takuma Sato, who's once a podium finisher in Formula 1 at Indianapolis in 2004, has come into the pits from the race lead, as has Pascal Wehrlein. So Sato and Wehrlein going for the pits. I wonder who else will be making a trip there. This is going to be the tricky thing for Sato, because he's likely going to come out in traffic. I think he might get out behind Théo Pourchaire. It looks to be, is he ahead of Sam Bird as well? I think he is, yeah. So Sato is rejoined in 10th place behind Pourchaire as Marcus Armstrong comes into the pits. So Jake Dennis, for the time being at least, is into the race lead. Brendan Hartley second, Lucas Di Grassi third. Tatiana Calderon is fourth as Sato wastes no time disposing Théo Pourchaire. He's on the fresher tyres as Takuma, so he makes light work of the Downs Vion and goes up into 9th place on track. He's got a bit of ground to make up on Lima, so he's not going to be losing too much time between now and when he catches up with him. And now we ride on board with one of the, what looks like one of the Carlins, I believe. It's quite difficult to tell because there's a lot of new teams this season. Sometimes their liveries are not as recognisable as they would like to be, as Wehrlein gets past what looked like one of the Reals that he got through. I think Turvey is further up ahead, so that must be Mike Conway. As Théo Pourchaire has gone in too deep into the penultimate turn, and that's allowed Sam Bird in the Zach Speed to close right up into the slipstream to prepare for an overtake into the hairpin, the last turn. It's such a fan favourite, is Sepang, and it's such a shame that it isn't on the Formula 1 calendar at the present moment. Lucas Di Grassi and Kamia Sato have both come into the pits, so they'll be hoping to get out in some clean air. It looks like D'Ambrosio in the only Force India in the run-in coming into the pits. Sebastian Loeb too. And now we're seeing Alan McNish, who has just pitted. He's about to make a move on the inside of Sebastian Ogier. So that's him through. So Takuma Sato continuing on in the dome, catching up to cars have yet to pit. Next car hoverman is Fabio Lima. He's had a decent recovery drive so far. Now Hartley is chasing after Dennis. And Brendan Hartley, who has once again recently competed in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Toyota's run of victories in that spectacular event of the World Endurance Championship, their run came to an end at the expense of Ferrari, that have won their first Le Mans overall since 1965. As Jake Dennis comes into the pits, and it looks like is it Tatiana Calderon has gone into the pit lane, or is that Callum Ilott? It was difficult to tell. No, it's Calderon. So Calderon in the pits, and Ilott is in as well. So this is an important stop of the race. Takuma Sato will go back into the net race lead, or so we think for now, because Brendan Hartley has stayed out. Is he trying the one stop? Be interesting to see. Hartley has got a lot of clear track ahead of him. He'll want to make good use of it before he comes in for what could well be his only stop of the race. Given how soon Sato had pitted, we expect him to come in again. As Dennis rejoins behind Sato, so no change between those two. So all eyes are on Brendan Hartley to pull out enough of a gap for when he does pit in. If he was to pit now, and that happens to be his only stop of the race, he could get out in front of Dennis. Although that is asking for too much at the present moment. So we see the LaRousse of Callum Ilott, the only LaRousse left in the run-in after Alexander Rossi had already pulled out of this one. As Brendan Hartley comes through, is he going to come into the pits at the end of the start? And that's a problem for Fabio Lima. He's got a problem. So Lima off the racetrack, and that is him out of the race. So what a really, really appalling lot there for the Swiss driver. So Fabio Lima pulling off the racetrack. And so that's the Dams that's the Carlin actually. So it's not the Dams Vion. My apologies again, mixed up with another car. They've got cars which have similar liveries, you see, so it's quite difficult to tell which is what. But Fabio Lima's suspension has given way, and that is him out of the race, unfortunately. So Perry Brown down to one car, unfortunately. Luciano Bicchetta, who's in 15th position on track, but I don't think he's come into the pits yet. So Takuma Sato running in P2 on track. Pascal Wehrlein's just got in front of Théo Pourchaire, who has yet to make a pit stop. De Grasse has got ahead of him now, and the reason why he's got ahead of him is because Pourchaire has ducked into the pits. And further back, we've just seen Jerome D'Ambrosio making the move, and Kamiya Sato has now got the fastest up of the race. He's running nicely there, up in 6th place on track. Marcus Armstrong looking to make a move on the Force India of D'Ambrosio on the inside into turn 1. And that is the Kiwi through and up into 10th position. Now, it may not be the end of the world if Armstrong gets a disqualification out of this, because managers do have the right to appeal the decision. We are looking further back. This is a car that's outside the top 15 in the race order at the moment. It looks like one of the Carlins. As we're going through turns 5 and 6. So on lap 20 of the race. And Hartley looking good. And he's coming into the pits now. So he's coming at the end of lap 20. Has the Kiwi. So Hartley was able to stay out considerably longer. I think Hartley's going for the one stopper, which I think could play into his hands later on. So Sato goes back into the race lead. Dennis will go into 2nd place. Now what about Pascal Wehrlein? And Jake Dennis has now got the fast stop of the race. He's really getting the hammer down, is the young Brit. Hartley comes out of the pits, and is he ahead of Pascal Wehrlein? No, he's not. So Wehrlein was able to get ahead of Hartley in the pit stops, but given how soon Wehrlein had pitted, it is highly doubtful that he'll go to the end of the race. I think Wehrlein will be pitting again. So if Hartley's got any hope of winning this race, he needs to get past Wehrlein as soon as he can. And we watch Sam Bird, who recovering nicely actually after his trip in the gravel at the start of the race. Goes up the inside of Element Nish, so the Englishman getting past the Scot. So Bird is up into P12 on track. So Mish dropping back a little bit. I think Bird has the fresher tyres at this stage, so absolutely going for it is Sam Bird. And Kim Sato knows the situation. I think he knows that Brendan Hartley is going for the one stopper, so Sato needs to make the most of the next spin. And that is the worst nightmare for Ewan Gale, because Pascal Wehrlein's engine has given way. At least they've managed to find themselves where they are in terms of the pecking order in this one compared to where they were last season, but all that counts for nothing if they can't make it to the end of the race. So Wehrlein joins his teammate Marcus Ericsson on the sidelines. That is both the Fond Matels out of the race. No points for the team and no points for the Welshman Ewan Gale. Well, he's not getting off the track, is Wehrlein, so he'll want to try and pull off in a safe location. He'll probably do it into turn 1 most probably. So yeah, you can see the engine revs are reducing, so Wehrlein should pull off the track here at turn 1. And that is yet another retirement for the team. So the Toyota engine not able to last the distance, unfortunately. So Wehrlein's race has come to a close. But they've given it a good shot at Von Mattel. They've given it a really good go. And I'm really happy to have seen them got to where they have done. Well, it's one less fright actually for Brendan Hartley, but that time of being stuck behind him has cost him a little bit of time, but he's got some ground to make up on Jake Dennis. But remember, we expect Sato and Dennis to be pitting in again before this race is over. So it's 2 races really. One driver going for the 1 stop, another's going for the 2. As Bird looks to the inside, and that was very nearly contact between him and Loeb. That was so close to being contact between him and the Frenchman. But they both somehow managed to get away with it. So Sato looking increasingly comfortable. Callum Ilott is going after Tatiana Calderon for 6th position. So down the back straight before they get to the hairpin, which is the last of the lap. So Dennis in P2. Are Andrea Moda going to pick up their best ever result in the Grand Prix World Series? As we watch Biquetta up the inside, going for a move on Alan McNish. And the move not quite paying off there, unfortunately. So Jake Dennis in P2. We've had a number of retirements already in the opening half of the race. Don't know for certain how many will get to the end. So Takuma Sato looking at his record in previous seasons. As we watch Biquetta looking for a move on the inside of McNish, he can't quite make it work either, so he stays behind for the time being. So Takuma Sato has taken pole twice, as we watch his teammate Kamiya Sato locking up and outbraking himself into the penultimate turn, but no harm done. So Sato's picked up pole on 2 occasions, which were 2 pole positions in his first 2 races. Shah Alam and Fuji they picked up in season 1. He's only had the one podium finish to his name with the Onyx squad. As we watch Oliver Turvey dive to the inside of Luciano Baghetta, and that is him through into 13th position. Going back to what I was saying about Takuma Sato, as we watch Lowe make a move on Bird for 9th. So Sato picked up a podium in round 4 of Season 2, which was in Yongam, and that's the next location where the Grand Prix World Series we're going to after this one. So Hartley in P3. There's Teo Porcher running in 16th position. Race is beginning to calm down somewhat, despite all the problems of others. So Hartley running in P3 at the present moment now. And then behind him is the Zach speed of Lucas Di Grassi. He's not far behind him, actually, thinking of it, and he's catching him, not at a rate of knots, but ever so slightly lap by lap. So Hartley's got someone to worry about for the time being, as well as the top 2 ahead. So Sato going through turn 1. 17 laps to go in this race. Jake Dennis has the fastest lap of the event so far, and the pole position point in this race went to Marcus Ericsson. So at least Von Mattel will come away with a point for that. I'm sure they've hoped for a lot more than what they've picked up from Sepang. So we've lost the front 2 on the grid so far in this race. They were Marcus Ericsson and Andre Lotterer. Takuma Sato, started 6th place on the grid, is running in the race lead. Jake Dennis not far behind. 2.5 seconds is the gap between those 2 cars. I wonder what Kevin McMullen will be thinking of Brendan Hartley's performance so far. Well, I can tell you that he's done his 1 stop. We expect him to go to the end, whereas Takuma Sato and Jake Dennis are expected to be back in the pits again. You can see a list of retirements so far: Pascal Wehrlein, Fabio Lima, Alexander Rossi, Marcus Ericsson, Jack Aiken, Christian Lundgaard, Sergio Sette Camara and Andre Lotterer. Sebastian Ogier running in 18th and last position behind Valentino Rossi, who we've not really spoken that much about so far. Valentino Rossi, part of Jake Sanson's team, Dams Vaillant. It's so far so good up front for the likes of Sato, Dennis and Hartley. You could throw Lucas Di Grassi in there, despite his concertina collision with Fabio Lima and Sam Bird at the start. Got away with it. And we are seeing a Zach Speed make a move up the inside. That is Sam Bird on Jerome D'Ambrosio, and that has moved him up into 8th position. His teammate Lucas Di Grassi chasing Brendan Hartley. And now we're seeing D'Ambrosio not giving up without a fight. Going for it up the inside of Sam Bird. He's gone back into 8th place. Brendan Hartley running in P3. A lot of events to look forward to this season. In case you were wondering, we've got Yongam for round 2, Zental in Indonesia, which the Retro Racing Managers League have raced at when we had the Group C challenge. After that we go to Fuji, which is another one of the returning circuits. Kyalami for round 5. Istanbul, Imola, Magny Court are next after that. And then we've got Brands Hatch, which the Grand Prix World Series will be going to for the first time. Hockenheim is another circuit which is a returnee. And then we're going to Hungary for the first time in Pannonia. followed by Valencia in Spain on the street circuit that Formula 1 raced at. Buenos Aires in Argentina. Curitiba in Brazil is another one of the new venues, as is San Carlos in Venezuela. And the 16th and final round will be at the usual season finale, that is Laguna Seca. Whilst we were discussing that, the gap has come down slightly to 1.9 seconds between Takuma Sato in the lead and Jake Dennis in second. And Harley isn't going as quick as I thought he was going to be, if I'm honest with you, despite being on fresher tyres to the leaders. And now we are watching McNish, who is up the inside of Luciano Bichetta in the Carlin, and that is a place gained for the Scotsman. So there are two races coming up. This is obviously one of them, and we've got the League One race to come later on, so stay tuned to that. And Tatiana Calderon in P6, just ahead of Calamilot, who's closed in gradually on the Colombian. Calamilot, who has already tasted victory in the Grand Prix. So in fact, he won the very first League 2 race in Taupo last season. And I don't think he won again until, well, he didn't win again throughout the rest of the season, which is a bit of a shame for Will Knight, who was managing the team. Now we're seeing Brendan Hartley, and now we're seeing pit stops, and it's Takuma Sato, Jake Dennis and Lucas Di Grassi coming in. So Hartley's into the race lead as expected. Kamiya Sato will go into P2 as we watch Sebastian Lowe come into the pits. Calderon goes up into third place in the MasterCard Lola. And now we see Takuma Sato coming through as well. He's not too far behind the Colombian either, so we expect Sato to make light work of the MasterCard Lola before he gets onto the rear of Brendan Hartley. Kamiya Sato we expect to see in the pits again before this race is over. So Jake Dennis running in P5 after that pit stop. He'll be going after Takuma Sato. We ride on board. Looked like Kamiya Sato was just going through turn 11. Here's Oliver Turvey, who's running in 15th position. Valentino Rossi running in P12. I think that's because of the pit stops that have been going on, because Ilott and Armstrong are further back than where they should be. And so lap 28 is done. Hartley pushing on in the lead, looking very, very good. Is it going to be a debut victory for Kevin McMullen? It's looking that way as Kamiya Sato comes into the pits from P2. So this is going to be an intense finish to the flag now. Can Takuma Sato make good use of his fresh tyres and catch up to the race leader Brendan Hartley? Sam Bird in the pits, along with Tatiana Calderon and Jerome D'Ambrosio. And Alan McNish in at the same time. So it's a busy pit lane at the moment. Mike Conway also going in for fuel and tyres to get to the end of the race. Sato trying to make up the gap. It's 15 seconds it is between himself and Hartley, so he needs to close down more than a second on average per lap if he has any hope of snatching the win from Hartley's grasp. We'll see the sector times or the the gap's coming down as we speak. I'm seeing 15.2 from where I'm sat, and that's come down to 14.4. So we can see that Sato is closing down the gap. But is he going to have enough time to get the overtake done? Catching is one thing, passing is quite another. So we see Armstrong coming through. He's behind Jerome D'Ambrosio. D'Ambrosio looking good for a point in the Force India at least. And the gap has come down to 13.9 seconds, is it? 13.8, something like that, between Hartley and Sato, with 12 laps to go. It's going to be a nail-biting finish to the flag, and who knows, if Sato gets held up by Hartley, it may bring Jake Dennis into the fray. So coming into the sweep-in left and right-handers of turns 5 and 6. Cut away for the time being. And this is the man who's only just a couple of seconds ahead. Even if they don't win the race, it's still an encouraging start to the season for Dome. Cars running in 2nd and 5th. But Hartley is looking good up front. .7 seconds is the margin. So Hartley, who's already won twice, or 3 times I should say, in the Grand Prix World Series, all of which coming in Season 1 with the Manor team, where he finished runner-up overall. The first win coming on the streets of Po, and then the other 2 coming at Buenos Aires and Vancouver. So there's Takuma Sato in 2nd place. And there's Dennis, who's carrying a problem by the sounds of it. It is! This is not good news for Lucy Ballwood, and her driver Jake Dennis from 3rd place has pulled off. There looks like a suspension problem for him. Unless it's a puncher. It's a puncher. What rotten luck. 11 laps away from the finish. 3rd place gone for Andrea Moda. Both drivers having the chance of getting to the podium at least. It's going to be ne point, I'm afraid, for last lap Lucy. What a shame. Well, it does promote Lucas Di Grassi up to 3rd place in the Sack Speed. This has probably been his best race in a long time in the Grand Prix World Series. Lucas Di Grassi had a tough time of it in the Grand Prix World Series last season. He was dropped at the end of Season 1 from Manor. As we watched Callum Ilott going for a move on Théo Pourchaire for 6th position, but that move not quite coming off as he had hoped to have done. But Lucas Di Grassi, looking at where he ended up last season, as he was racing for Sack Speed, his best result being 7th on a couple of occasions. He has been on the podium on a number of occasions during his Grand Prix World Series career. And it's 3, I think that's 3 podiums, is it? He has had. That is indeed correct, and they all came with Manor in Season 1. And could that hoodoo be about to end, this time with Sack Speed? Laps remaining. Hartley's lead has come down to 10.8 seconds. Sato in 2nd position. Looking further back down the order as Mike Conway looks to make a move on Sebastian Loeb for 13th position. You can see Sato locking up and pushing hard in his pursuit. Time is running out for him though. What's the gap now in sector 2? Has he got that down to maybe under 10 seconds perhaps? No, it's not really. He only got that gap down by like a tenth or something. Could that be the buffer that Brendan Hartley needs in order to wrap up victory today? Well, Sam Bird will be hoping to keep his nose clean at the end of this race, nearly taking out Teo Pourchaire again. Well, there is Hartley beginning his 33rd lap, 9 to go. As we see Valentino Rossi behind Sebastian Ogier in 17th position. He is the last driver of all the runners. At least he's got a battle to focus on between now and the checkered flag. Now we've seen Sam Bird. Can he pull off a clean manoeuvre on Pourchaire this time, going into the final corner? I'll tell you in a moment as to whether he actually has got the move done, and he has done for now at least. But Pourchaire can get into the slipstream and have a go back into turn 1. Well, we're going to have a look at the move now actually, as Bird makes a move up the inside of Pourchaire as they come into turn 15. Bird on the inside, and he's got the move completed, but has Pourchaire given up? He's too far back, so Bird has put himself up into 7th place. And I think we're about to see an overtake from Valentino Rossi on Sebastian Ogier. So Ogier leaving room, and Rossi goes through. That's a brilliant sight to see for Jake Santos to see his man making up a position on track and on merit. But Ogier is not giving up. He goes to the inside again on the Italian. And I think he's got through on him again. So it's a nice scrap for these two, even though it's at the bottom end of the field. And the gap is 9.7 seconds between Hartley in the lead and Takuma Sato in P2. Degrassi will be second for 3rd. Kamiya Sato in 4th position. Calderon up there in a really strong 5th place. She's done very, very well. She's done a lot better here so far than she had done in the entire of last season during the Lola team's relegation campaign. There's Rush Ogier. I think he's got overtaken again by Valentino Rossi. So I think Rossi's got the move done, completed and for good. Didn't see the overtake unfortunately, but we know the result of it, and Rossi's got back through again and into 16th position. So 9.4 seconds was the gap. What's the gap now as they come through sector 1? It's 9.1. It's quite a short first sector of the lap is Sepang. But with 8 laps to go, the gap is 9.1, so it's more than a second that Sato needs to take out to even catch up, let alone get past. So it really could come down to the last lap of the race. Could even come down to the last corner. Calderon running in 5th place, chasing Kamiya Sato. She's very much safe from Calamilo in 6th. Sam Bird ahead of Teo Pourchaire. Jerome D'Ambrosio looking on course for a couple of points in 9th. Marcus Armstrong, should his disqualification stand, would fall out of the points, and Oliver Turvey in the Real would inherit that point. So we're seeing Calderon closing in on Kamiya Sato. The gap is what looks like around about 3 seconds between the two. 8.6 seconds is the margin between Hartley and Sato. Takuma Sato, that is. Sato crossing over the line. The gap is 8.4 seconds with 7 laps remaining. I don't think Sato's going to have enough time unless Hartley makes a mistake somewhere 9 drivers out of the race so far, 2 of which being the Andrea Moders, 2 of which being the Von Mattels, who have been running towards the front of the field, or at the front of the field. They'll be back in the coming races. I would expect them to be within the frame of going for podiums and race wins. And now we are seeing a move from what looks like Sebastian Loeb on Mike Conway, and that is a change in position. So Loeb up into 13th place, and Conway is now in a, well, he was in a sandwich momentarily because of the just looking at Alan McNish, who's closing in behind. Also, it's the 2 Ram racing cars. That was the name of the team I was trying to look for. I keep thinking it's a Coloni because of Alan McNish, but it's not. It's the Ram racing team. In the closing stages of the race now of the opening round of Season 3 of the Grand Prix World Series. It's looking very good for Brendan Hartley and for the Pacific team. And that is Callum Eilert off the road. Is that a problem? It is. The engine is shut down. And that is the second LaRousse out of the race. So Will Knight's season not getting off to the best of starts. It's not the best starts of the season for Callum Eilert either. So there is the Brit pulling off the track at turn 9. And that sounds like... is that a transmission problem or something? We'll find out in a moment what it is. It's a puncture for Eilert. So you can see that the car is lifting off the ground actually. So Eilert joins his teammate on the signs. Both LaRousse cars out of the race now. That's the 10th retirement from this Grand Prix. The gap is now 7.5 seconds between Hartley and Takuma Sato with 6 laps left. So Sato not taking enough out of Hartley's margin up ahead. And should Armstrong's disqualification... oh, there's an engine problem further back. And I think... is that Oliver Turvey suffering? Is that a Rial slowing down? I think it is. I think Oliver Turvey's got a problem. He has. That's the Rial's engine going. So that's the Life engine that they are running this season. And it's not lasted the distance, unfortunately, for Oliver Turvey. It's done 35 laps. But he hasn't completed the full distance. He won't have completed enough laps to even be classified as a finisher, which can have an impact on prize money. But for Turvey, his race is over. Just needs to pull that car off in a safe place. So it looks like it's all over for the Brit. Pull off at turn 4, I'd imagine. I think he just lost a wheel as he hit the gravel, so that won't have done the car too good. So there is Oliver Turvey out of the race with an engine failure. So that's one worry for Ed Hunter, the team manager of the Rial squad. As we watch Lucas Di Grassi, it's a nice onboard camera actually on the nose cone of the Sax Speed. Di Grassi in 3rd place, Takuma Sato 4th, Cardinal on 5th, it's Bird, D'Ambrosio, Armstrong, Porsche and Luciano Piquetta in the top 10 for Carlin. Are they about to score points on debut? Well, at least there's some form of reprieve for the Rial squad because Mike Conway is in 11th position. And should Armstrong's disqualification stand, he will go into the top 10. As Alan McNish has just got past Sebastian Loeb for 12th position. There's the Pacific. And now we're looking at Loeb, trying to make his way back through on McNish. So the 2 Ram drivers are tussling amongst themselves. It is the opening round of the season after all, so it's probably a good opportunity to see how they get on as drivers battling on circuit. So there's Sam Bird running in 6th place. Must feel like a long time since he got by Théo Pourchaire. I don't think he's got anyone up ahead to really challenge. And the next one ahead of him is... so the next driver ahead of him is Tatiana Calderon, who's 10 seconds up ahead in the Lola. As Brendan Hartley starts the 38th lap. 4 laps to go for the Kiwi. The gap down is 6.4 seconds. So I think Hartley has got this one sewn up now. Unless any mechanical gremlins kick in. As we watch back to see Sam Bird pushing hard at the final corner. And is able to get away with it on this occasion. It's amazing to see both of the Saxbys running very well actually. Degrassi 3rd, Bird 6th. This has probably been the team's best result ever in the Grand Prix World Series. They did okay last season, but not spectacular. But they look to be getting off to a good start this time around. I think Sam Bird finished in 2nd place in Sepang last season, if my memory serves me correctly, in round 3 of the championship, which was Malaysia. So could Saxby be on the podium once again in Malaysia? Not got long to go now, and Degrassi's 3rd place looks increasingly likely to become a podium finish for the team. So just 3 laps remaining now, and Hartley is crossing over the line. The gap between him and Takuma Sato is 6.16. Only gradual reductions in the gap between the top 2. I think Takuma is going to be settling for 2nd place at this rate. Takuma Sato is Dome teammate, managed by David Yuntz. It stands they'll be leading the Constructors' Championship after this race, even though they haven't picked up the win. And one saving grace actually for Lucy Ballwood, for the Andrea Motorsport, is that Jake Dennis has got the fast lap of the race. Now if that stays as it is, then they will collect a championship point, even though neither of their drivers have finished the race. So take my word back for saying ne point. It could be 10 points, or however you say it in French, for 1 championship point. Looking at the Ram Racing cars, nose to tail once more. Sebastian Loeb ahead of Alan McNish. And there's Sato, not quite closing down the gap. It's pretty stagnated at the moment. Those mechanical problems really do hit the Pacific team. Hartley's teammate Sergio Sete Cameron was taken out earlier by Marcus Ericsson at the penultimate turn. We've seen Mike Conway going through turns 7, 8. So looking back at the Japanese driver for the Japanese team. 2 laps remaining then in the opening race of the season. And Brendan Hartley is on course to take his 4th win in the Grand Prix World Series. Romain Grosjean took victory for the Pacific team in Sepang, and they're about to repeat it again with Brendan Hartley. This will be Hartley's 4th win in his Grand Prix World Series career. And now we're looking at Luciano Paqueta making a move on Théo Pourchaire up the inside into turn 1 with a couple laps to go. And he's put his Carlin up into 9th position. That's going to give Perry Brown something to smile about. The man substituting for Davide Valsecchi for this race. And if Armstrong's disqualification was to be stood, then Paqueta would move up into 8th place, Porsche would be 9th, and Conway would be 10th. You can see Lucas Di Grassi going through turn 14 now. In the Sap Speed, is not too far from home, as Brendan Hartley has started the final lap of the race. An immense performance from the Kiwi. After the disappointment of last season, this is the kind of response he would have wanted from the Pacific team. They gave him a second chance following his departure from Manor halfway through the campaign. And this season, he's put Pacific very much right back on the map. And could this be an omen for what's to come during the Lead 2 campaign of the Grand Prix World Series? Sato, who won't be too disappointed with second, as his teammate Kamiya Sato. As it stands there, they will be leading the Constructors' Championship after the race. There is Hartley, just only needing to bring the car home now. He's not far from the checker flag. What a race for the team. And they're about to do it again in Sepang. As I've already mentioned, Roman Grosjean took victory in the Lead 2 race here last season when Carter McCollum was in charge. This season, in his first race as a team manager in the Retro Racing Managers League in the Grand Prix World Series, Kevin McMullen is going to have something to celebrate. Brendan Hartley, coming round the last corner, is going to become the first race winner of the campaign. And for the Pacific team are going to go wild. Kevin McMullen is going to go wild. Brendan Hartley wins the Sepang Grand Prix in Lead 2 for Pacific. What a drive, what a race. He made the strategy work. And it's the 25 points going to the New Zealander. Takuma Sato on the podium. Back on the podium for the first time in a long time. And there's Lucas Di Grassi on the podium for the first time since Laguna Seca in Season 1. Saxby get on the podium once again in Sepang. It was Sam Bird last season. This season it's Lucas Di Grassi. Kamiya Sato on debut. 4th position for Dome. They lead the Constructors' Championship. Tatiana Calderon with her best finish. By far her best finish in the Grand Prix World Series in 5th place. There is Sam Bird after his collision at the start with Fabio Lima. Had it not been for that, he could have been in the running for most certainly a podium. 6th for him. There's Jerome D'Ambrosio picking up some useful points for Ed Spencer's Force India team. He comes home. And then we've got Marcus Armstrong, who crosses the line in 8th. But at the moment, he's currently excluded from the results after the collision with Sergio Sette Camera earlier on. Luciano Paqueta picking up points on debut, reserving for Davide Valsecchi for Carlin. He's 9th, Teo Porsche 10th, Mike Conway shown in 11th, Sebastian Loeb, Alamat Nish, Valentino Rossi, and Sebastian Ogier rounding off the 15 finishers. But it's a race win to celebrate for Brendan Hartley and for Pacific. What a race, and what a race it's been for the team. And I will mention Marcus Armstrong's 8th place is excluded after the collision he had with Sergio Sette Camera in the opening stages of the race. So that will promote Luciano Paqueta, Teo Porsche and Mike Conway up a position each and scoring. 11 drivers failing to finish, but it's a sign of things to come for the League 1 race later on. What a start to the season for Season 3 of the Grand Prix World Series.
A huge congratulations to Brendan Hartley there, taking the first race win of the season for the Pacific team, the Kiwi making the strategy work, and he comes away with a 25 points for victory there. Moving on now to League 1, the sharp end of the Grand Prix World Series, and the top team, Simtech, led by Scott Woodwiss, who took Scott Dixon all the way to the Drivers' Championship last time out. 4 wins for the Kiwi IndyCar legend. Alongside Stoffel van Dorn, 2 wins of his own. This promises to be a hugely competitive lineup once again Can they get that team's title away from our second team, Super Aguri? They went all the way to the title last time out. And Robin Freins, the number 3 driver there, he went all the way to the vice champion status in last season, but no wins to his name. He just made consistency count, but only lost out on a chance to fight for the championship after being banned from the last race of the season. No one is immune from the potential of having a race ban in this championship. Paul Di Resta moves up to join Freins at the team, which is now led by Michael Gillespie under new management for this season. Can a Scotsman take Super Aguri to title glory once again? Tiago Monteiro will be the reserve driver from this team, moving over from Midland along with Michael Gillespie. Onyx Grand Prix once again are led by Ryan Ferris, who keeps on his driver lineup of Sebastian Bourdais and Kazuki Nakajima. Bourdais putting on a late charge for the title last season, but falling just short after being split in half at a corkscrew of the Laguna Seca, a frightening accident for the Frenchman. He's bouncing back even better, even stronger for this season. Can he add to his 3 wins? And the new reserve driver for this team, Daniel Kvyat, who will step in should Nakajima or Bourdais not be able to race at any point this season. The Arrows team's taken over by myself, and I've brought on Daniel Junkendaya and Pato Water team. O'Ward, a rookie in the Grand Prix World Series, and Junkendaya impressing for the Minardi team last season. So I thought, hey, he's looking like a decent prospect. Why not bring him on board to the Arrows team? And British driver Adrian Quaife-Hobbs will be the reserve driver here. The AGS team under new management as Lewis Bassendale takes over and brings Colton Herter into the team alongside Tom Cruise. Now, Tom Cruise, he's a rookie on paper, but he's not exactly new to the Grand Prix World Series. He did do a non-championship race last season. Now he's getting a full-time tilt at a Grand Prix World Series. And it'll be interesting to see his progress with Alex Palou ready to step in should Lewis Bassendale think he needs a change in the driver lineup. BAR now headed up by Will Knight, and he's brought Nicholas Latifi onto the team alongside Sean Galayle, an all-rookie lineup here, with Antonio Giovinazzi, the new Le Mans champion, ready to step in. Ford engines and Michelin tyres will power the BAR team. Can they get back to title-winning ways? This team took Jean-Eric Vergne to the League One title. The Season 1 title. I keep getting League and Season mixed up. The Season 1 title for Jean-Eric Vergne with this team. Can he get back to the top again with Latifi and Galayle? The Manor team, Sam Hall once again piloting the red and black cars with Roman Grosjean and Kamui Kobayashi. Grosjean taking the last win of the season in Laguna Seca last time out. And Marco Andretti, he did a few races last season but will now be the reserve driver. Minardi takes on Antonio Fix da Costa and Jean-Eric Vergne, an all-new driver lineup headed up by Giacomo Pagliari. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Antonio Liuzzi, the Italian driver, will be the reserve driver for the Italian team with Fiat engines and Saetta tyres. This should be a very strong driver lineup. Jean-Eric Vergne, the Season 1 champion, and Antonio Fix da Costa, a race winner and championship contender last time out. Keep an eye on these guys. They could spring a few surprises. Moving on to the Forzi Corsi team, Dave Goddard keeping on his last driver lineup of Roy Nissany and Mahavir Raghunathan. No wins, no podiums for this team, but that could all change this season. Could potentially be a bit more competitive than people think, but we will wait to see how this driver lineup turns out. Dave Goddard, not sure how seriously he's taking this in employing Nissany and Raghunathan, but hey, anything can happen in the Grand Prix World Series. We are so excited to see how this driver pairing fares. Leighton House, the Season 2 teams champion, along with the Season 2 drivers champion, Will Power and Helio Cascianeves, first and second in League 2 last season, having only done part seasons. They were that dominant that they can only do about half a season each and still finish first and second. Now with full seasons in prospect for these two drivers, can they go all the way to the League 1 championship? I reckon it's going to be a really strong season for this team and these drivers. How will they fare against the dominance of Scott Dixon and the Simtech team? That's going to be fantastic to watch. HRT, John Munro once again bringing this team into League 1. Adrian Suttil and Alex Lynn staying on. Both race winners and should be once again quite a strong season for this team, with Lewis Williamson, a Scottish racer, looking to potentially get a race or two over the course of the season. How will they fare with Yamaha engines and MRF tyres? No one else on the grid going for these particular tyres, so will that pay dividends for John Munro? That'll be fascinating to watch. The Prost team getting a reprieve back into League One. They were relegated into League Two from last season, but with some teams dropping out, they were put back in. And Marco Wittmann and Artem Markelov once again will fight for the honours of the French team, with Nicolas Prost, the eponymous driver of the team, who will act as the reserve driver with BMW engines and Bridgestone tyres. Can Wittmann return to the podium this season? Can Markelov get his first podium? We will see how this team fares with their second chance back in League One. And finally, in the top division, Marino Sato and Juan Manuel Correa will race for the Midland outfit run by Alex Johnston, with Rio Haryanto looking to back up the efforts of Sato and Correa over the course of the season. Sato, a race winner in his own right, can he add to his tally? While Correa, a rookie who will want to make an immediate impact into this division of racing. But picking up where he left off from Season 2, Scott Dixon puts us straight onto pole in the first race of Season 3 by over 0.3 of a second, almost 0.4 of a second, to Season 1 champion Jean-Eric Vergne in the Minardi. It's quite ominous pace so far from Dixon, but as we saw last season, it's one thing to be fast, it's another thing to finish the race. Reliability playing a huge part in this championship. Will Power, the Season 2 League 2 champion, making an immediate impact into League 1 by putting his Leighton House third on the grid ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa, both of the Minardis, second and fourth. A strong beginning to the season for that outfit. Kamui Kobayashi, fifth on the grid for Mana, ahead of Pato Ward in the Arrows. Stoffel Van Dorn puts both Syntex into the top 7, with Paul de Resta, the top Super Aguri driver, in 8th. Daniel Ogundaya, 9th in the Arrows, alongside Kazuki Nakajima, who is 10th in the Onyx team, just over a second off the pace. This field spread not quite as close as League 2, but it should still be a very competitive race. Nicholas Latifi on his debut for the BAR team will line up 11th alongside Helio Castro Neves in the Leighton House. Roy Nassani, 13th for Forti Corsi alongside Sean Galale in the BAR, ahead of Juan Manuel Correa and Sebastian Bourdais in 15th and 16th. Mahavir Raghunathan not doing a bad job at all in qualifying to put his Forti Corsi 17th on the grid alongside Alex Lynn. Roman Grosjean, he'll be disappointed being a second and a half off the pace, having won the last race of Season 2. And he is ahead of Robin Freins, another one who'll be disappointed, having fought for the Season 2 championship. Colton Herta, Marco Wittmann are 21st and 22nd. Adrian Sutil and Marino Sato share row 12, and row 13 at the back of the grids. Artem Markelov in the Prost and Tom Cruise 2.8 seconds off the pace in the AGS. Is he going to go forward? Will he be able to work his way into the points? That'll be fascinating to see how the Hollywood actor gets on. But no more talking, no more build-up. Let's see how League One gets on. Tom Cairns, take it away.
Here we go then for the start of the first League One race of the season. Scott Dixon on pole position, the reigning champion. Alongside him, the champion of Season 1, Jean-Eric Vergne, now in the colours of Minardi instead of BAR as before. The drivers look to the right. The lights ahead of them. 5 LED lights come on. When they go out, we'll be racing for the first time this season in League One. The lights are out and the drivers are off. Now they seem to be pulling clear fine. Dixon looking to retain the lead ahead of Vergne. And we're looking at Pato O'Ward, who's coming through in 3rd place. Is he going to make a move into turn 1? I can tell you that Jean-Eric Vergne in the Minardi is into the lead more or less as he's on the inside as they go into turn 1. But it is Dixon who have the inside line into turn 2 on this Sepang International Circuit. And Dixon is back in front for the time being. So Dixon leads, Vergne is second. Then it's the second Simtek of Stoff Van Dorn in 3rd place. It's Pato O'Ward in 4th position in the Arrows, of which he's making a switch over from where he was last season. But so far so good. But there's a shot there. That's Kamui Kobayashi in the Mana there. So his race has lasted only 4 turns. Who ran into him? Well, we're about to find out now as we look on the replay. As we look to see, oh, that looked like one of the blue livery cars. We couldn't quite tell for certain who that was. I think it might have been a Prost as they came into turn 4. As we're looking on the rear wings now, see who that actually was. We're right on board with Marco Wittmann. Was he the one that hit Kamui Kobayashi into turn 4? We're getting another look at it now. And he has a look. Yeah, he just missed his braking point, unfortunately, and just careered into Kobayashi. So Kobayashi is out of the race. Wittmann keeps going, but I'd imagine the stewards will take a good look at that because that looked quite avoidable from my perspective, but we'll see what the stewards say in due course. Now Dixon is in the lead. He's put out quite a margin already on Verne, but we're looking at Van Dorn, who's making a move on him as they go into what looks like turn 9, and it looks like Van Dorn has got ahead of Verne, and he has done. So it's a Simtek 1 and 2, which is where the team ended up in the Constructors' Championship, as well as Scott Dixon taking the Drivers' Championship. It was quite a rocky season for them last season, but the run of victories they had, as well as the retirements they had to endure, was still enough for them to be crowned champions remarkably. But of course this season could well be different. There's so many decent drivers in the reckoning there, and now we ride on board with Jean-Luc Verne, who's looking to get back ahead of the Belgian Stoffel Van Dorn on the inside, and the Formula E champion of 2017-18 and 2018-19, the only double champion of Formula E, has moved up into second position for Minardi. So lap 1 is done, the fast lap has been set, but we've only just done the first lap, so we expect that fast lap to come down in the next few laps, probably at the end of the next lap, thinking of it, as we look at Will Power looking to make a move on the Super Aguri ahead. That is Paul di Resta moving across from Midland. Now, of course, at the helms of Michael Gillespie, who was formerly the Midland manager last season. The team went down initially, but due to the demise of BMS Scuderia Italia and Life folding from the Grand Prix World Series, they were granted an entry back into League One for another season. But he's now at Super Aguri, who of course previously managed by Topher Smith, who's moved on to Arrows, filling in for the departed Emma Butterworth, who managed that team in the first 2 seasons. And now we'll look at Van Dorn for a moment, but we're looking at Colton Herzer, who is one of many debutants in the Grand Prix World Series this season. He's running in 23rd place at the moment in the AGS, who are running the 1987 livery on that car, the car of which Roberto Moreno famously got a championship point in the season finale in Adelaide that season, despite it only being his second Grand Prix start, which was quite a monumentous achievement for him, given how inferior the AGS was. That car was driven by Pascal Faber throughout the majority of 1987. We're going back to the action as we look at the Leighton House, who were absolutely brilliant last season, especially with the driver lineup of Will Power and Helio Castroneves. Will Power winning the League 2 title last season, and Leighton House winning the Constructors to go with it. And he's just under attack there, as it looks like Antonio Felix da Costa in the second Minardi has got past him at the last turn, as the drivers conclude the second lap of the race. And the fast lap is being shown by Dixon. Now, you may notice on the right hand side of the screen we keep a log of who's got the fastest lap, which is great to see. It's good for the viewers, it's good for me as well to keep a track of what's happening. And we've just seen a move there from Paul di Resta, getting a move on Patrick Ward completed, and that puts him up into 4th position. So Paul di Resta having a splendid race so far. And now we go further back to Roy Nassani in the 40, who impressed considerably last season for 40. He played a role in keeping the team in League One, the only team that were relegated by virtue of the demise of BMS Scuderia Italia and Life, were Mastercard Lola, who of course are competing in League 2 under the eyes of the Swede Marcus Johansson, otherwise known as Mac as we call him. As we look at Vaudet, that was very nearly contact with the Arrows. I think that was Danny Junkadei he nearly came together with, and further behind, Helio Castroneves just outbraked himself going into turn number 7. Yeah, he just carried a bit too much speed there, missed the apex, and was lucky to keep the car on the tarmac. So Helio Castroneves getting away with it there. There's a long way to go, of course. These races are 75% of the normal Formula 1 race distance, as you can see on the lap counter. There's 41 laps to be completed in this race. We could well see a mixture of 1-stoppers or 2-stoppers, which will make the race a lot more interesting for sure, as Patrick Ward just outbraking himself a little bit going into the sharp right-hander. That is turn number 15, I believe. Just trying to keep account of all the turn numbers of this Sepang International Circuit. It must feel like a long time since Formula 1 last raced here in 2017. And now we've seen a replay of Antonio Felix da Costa, who was able to get a move done on Patrick Ward. So Ward losing another place then before the end of the 3rd lap, as they come around to start lap 4 right now. But Patrick Ward is not taking his line down. He's into the slipstream of da Costa, and the Mexican is looking to make amends and get back through again. Is he on the inside into turn 1? Let's have a look. And he seems to have got the move completed, so a good dice between these two, but the more they battle, the more they lose ground on those ahead. So there's Scott Dixon, who's got a lead of over 3.5 seconds over teammate Stoffel van Dorn in P2. As we look back to Will Power running in P7 behind Da Costa, but he's got the BAR of Nicholas Latifi, who's making his debut in the Grand Prix World Series, the former Williams Formula 1 driver, getting past the Leighton House, and the BAR pilot is up into P7. I think this demonstrates how many overtakes you will see on this Sepang circuit. It's a circuit you can most certainly get overtakes done. It's a fan favourite as well, the Sepang International Circuit, thinking of it. We were all very sad, or the majority of fans were very sad to see it go off the Formula 1 calendar for a while at least. And that's Will Power getting back ahead of Nicholas Latifi into turn number 9, and that moves him up into P7, I would say. I was going to say he's into P7, Latifi 8th, Sean Galeo in P9. Sean Galeo, who is another one of those to make his debut in the Grand Prix World Series this season. He's also racing for BAR. Now under a new manager, and that's a tap there. And it looks like Helio Castroneves has got an issue. You can see smoke billowing out from the back of the Leighton House. And I think his race is going to come short, unfortunately. He needs to be very careful. It doesn't become too much of a smoke screen to these drivers or start causing collisions. And he's been hit from behind by the Hispania there. Couldn't quite tell who that was. But this is absolutely ridiculous, really, from Castroneves. He needs to pull that car off the racing line and off the track. He hasn't been able to do that. Now, who actually hit him from behind? Was it Adrian Sutil or was it Alex Lynn? I think it was Adrian Sutil because Alex Lynn is further up ahead. So Sutil's got a broken front wing, so he'll be in the pits at the end of this lap. So not an ideal start to the season really for either Leighton House or HRT. Promoted up from League 2 last season. And it's proven to be a baptism of fire for them so far. Of course, we've got a long way to go yet in this race. Castroneves still not getting off the racetrack at the moment. There's cars trying to get through ahead of him. And Sousa will be going for the pits at the end of this lap. And Castroneves is not doing himself any favours trying to keep that car going. He's completed the lap, but he won't be getting to the end of the race. So looking on the classification so far, Kamui Kobayashi is about to be joined on the sidelines by the Brazilian, the joint greatest Indy 500 winner, Helio Castroneves, who's about to pull the car off the track on the exit of turn 2, and that is his race run. So Leighton House down to one car already. And I imagine there may be a few words afterwards in terms of the way Castroneves pulled off the circuit. Now we do have a revision on the regulations in terms of collisions caused, or if you start causing a collision that was completely avoidable. There are specific penalties for particular scenarios that there's so many different scenarios in terms of how you can be penalised. You can be penalised 10 seconds or 5 seconds depending on the situation, but I think Castroneves may have the book at him thrown for not getting off the racetrack sooner and causing a collision with Adrian Sutil in the process. So I would imagine, looking at my list of regulations that's been given to me, I think given the circumstances, I think it could end up being a 30-second time penalty or a back of the grid penalty for the next race for Helio Castroneves. I won't speculate too much further, that's just what the regulations say to me. We could get something from race control later on in terms of what the punishment will be for Castroneves. I've just seen a few more overtakes being done at the moment. That's the Onyx of Kazuki Nakajima battling it out with Sean Galeo. I think he got ahead of him for a moment, but Galeo's got him back into turn 1. And we've just seen that Verne has got back ahead of Stoffel van Dorn into second place as well. So Minardi are coming out fighting here in the opening race of the season. Of course, Minardi are another one of those teams that have a new manager at the helm, Giacomo Pagliaro, the Italian, taking over the fold. The team running Fiat engines and Seat tyres. And they've got 2 Formula E champions in their lineup for season 3. Verne in P2, Da Costa in P6. And there is Marco Wittmann, who will for sure be getting under a little bit of hot water later on for his shenanigans with Kamui Kobayashi on the opening lap of the race that resulted in the retirement of the Manor driver. So I would imagine that Sam Hall may have something to say on that particular issue. And there we go, back to the lead of Scott Dixon, who's about to complete the 6th lap of the race as he comes towards the hairpin, turn 15 that is. Now I'm getting my turn number count back into my head. And there is the 40. And it looks like someone has gone off ahead of him. I don't know who that is. There was a huge lock up there. And we're about to get a replay of that now. Who was it that gone straight on? It was the Onyx of Sebastian Bourdais, who outbraked himself into the penultimate turn of the circuit. And the first of the 40s, the Indian Mahavir Raghunathan, got ahead of him. Now we'll look at the cockpit eye of what looks like Stoffel van Dorn as he comes into turn 1, and there is O'Ward getting ahead of the Minardi of Antonio Felix da Costa. So that is the Mexican through and up to 5th place. And Dixon continuing on for the time being. He's got the fastest up so far. He's also got the point for pole position. Now the point system is the same as Formula 1. 25 for the win, 18 for 2nd, 15 for 3rd, and so on. Down to 10th place. They would get 1 point. And there is Adrian Sutil on his own at the back. And it looks like Tom Cruise is out of the race. So his event has lasted only... Oh, and that's a fire on the AGS. And Cruise's race is already done, unfortunately. So he becomes retirement number 3 from this race. I wonder if that might be an oil leak or something, or just a simple engine fire. Find out a little bit later on, but Tom Cruise is now out of the race, just the 1 AGS left running. At least that's 1 less car for Adrian Sutil to get past on track. He's left himself with a lot to do. I don't even think the HRT squad had refueled the car for the rest of the race, unfortunately, so he'll have to do another pit stop before the end, so he's going to have to hope for misfortunes from others to salvage something from this race. His teammate Alex Lynn up there in P11, so he's on the cusp of the points. Danny Juncadella in the second arrows in P12, then it's the sole surviving manner of Romain Grosjean in 13th position. As we watch Nicholas TV locking up to what looked like turn 11 from my eyes. But he's able to keep going for now. As he comes into the last turn. And certainly he's got number 22 on the wagon of his, but I will tell you that is not the correct number. That his number should be car number 11, based on where the team finished in the Constructors' Championship last season. But there's Grosjean about to lose a position to the Midland of Juan Manuel Correa, a debutant in the Grand Prix World Series this season. And his overtake is enough to put him up to 13th position for the man who's racing in Formula 2 this season for the Van Amersfoort Racing squad. Now we look back further down. It's difficult to tell from that angle which driver that is, but I will tell you the driver behind him is the sole surviving Leighton House of Will Power, and they're outside the top 15. And that's Danny Juncadella off the track. So that is one of the arrows out of the race. He was running strongly up there in 12th position, was Juncadella, who performed brilliantly at the back end of last season for Minardi to help keep them in the division. But now it's all come to nothing so far for the Arrows team. He is out of the race and no points to kickstart his season here in Malaysia. And it's a loose wheel for Juncadella. So that is the cause of him pulling off the track, unfortunately. So that's another driver gone from this race. Now the question will be is, will Simtek get it right this season with their reliability? Because reliability was such a huge issue that very nearly cost them the championship in Season 2, but did enough with the race wins they picked up to claim both championships. Not only can they get one car to the end, but can they get both to the end as well? And there is Will Power making a move on the arrows of Pato O'Ward, and he's gone through. So I think Don't know whether I was looking at the wrong car some time ago, in terms of me referencing Will Power earlier on, but Power is up into P6. This is Dixon coming out of turn 2 with a commanding lead of 6 seconds over Jean-Eric Verne. It's worth mentioning, or worth bringing up, as to whether Dixon's doing a 1-stop or whether he's doing a 2-stop. Now, in terms of those doing a 2-stop, you're probably looking at around laps 13 or 14. And for those on the 1-stop, you're looking at around lap 20, 21. Oh dear, that's Jean-Eric Verne off the track. That's a problem for the Minardi. So the Season 1 champion, who did so well in qualifying and in the race up until this point, is out. So that's the Frenchman pulling off. I couldn't quite tell what that was. We'll get a notification as to what that problem actually was. But Verne is out, and it's a transmission problem for the Frenchman. So not good for him. He'll have to hope that his teammate Da Costa keeps going all the way to the end. He's now up in 4th place. Paul de Resta is 3rd. Stoffel van Dorn is now back into 2nd position. So it's a Simtek 1-2. Can Van Dorn make amends and close in on his teammate? Start challenging for the victory. So it's Simtek, Super Aguri, Minardi, Arrows, Leighton House, BAR, Onyx, HRT and BAR in the top 10 positions. Bomo Correa in the Midland in 11th place for Midland, sorry. Then it's Roman Grosjean in the Manor in P12. Then it's Mahafir Raghunathan in the 40 and 13th place. Sebastian Bourdais for Onyx is in 14th. And Marco Wittmann is in 15th position in the Prost, and I'd imagine will be under investigation later. And there is, we watch Pato O'Ward going for it. Will Power into turn 1. He's back into 5th place again, is the Mexican. So these two having a good old scrap from the beginning of the race up until now. And I doubt we'll see the last of it before the checkered flag. So there's Van Dorn running in P2. Of course, if he was to finish in P2, I'm sure he won't complain about it, and neither will Scott Woodwis. If he can get maximum points in the first race of the season, that's a great start to their defence of the Drivers and Constructors Championships. And of course, in terms of the calendar for this season in the Grand Prix World Series, we've got many new locations coming up. We've got Zental, that is for round 3. The other one's being Brands Hatch in the United Kingdom for round 9. Round 10 being at Hockenheim, presumably on the old layout that was there until 2001. And then we've got Pannonia in Hungary for round 11. Then Valencia in Spain on the street circuit that used to host Formula 1 many years ago. We've got Curitiba in Brazil, San Carlos in Venezuela. So a lot of new circuits coming up, along with a lot of the returning venues, as we've just seen Will Power get back ahead of Pato O'Ward again and into 5th place. Now the next round after Sepang will be at the Yeonggam circuit in South Korea, and I'll be interested to know how many times O'Ward and Will Power have overtaken each other since this race has started, because it's difficult to keep up in terms of how many overtakes they're doing or how many battles they're having since the start of it. As we watch the Super Aguri there, by the looks of it. And it's not Paul de Resta, that'll be Robin Fries, who's just got past for position. He's outside the top 15 at the moment, is Robin Fries, and there is his partner, Paul de Resta, who's now got Da Costa for company in the battle for the final podium spot. As we look further back at Sebastian Bourdais in the Onyx, who is one of the most experienced drivers in the field. He famously got a a win last season, but I think we just had a retirement, and I think it's Antonio Felix da Costa that's had an issue, and it is disaster for the Minardi team. Da Costa joins Jean-Luc Verne, his teammate, on the sidelines, and that is both Minardis out of the race, and it's back to the drawing board for Giacomo Pagliaro. You can see pulling off at turn 9, and Da Costa pulling off, and it looks like a suspension failure on the Minardi. You can just see the right front was lifting up in the air, and yeah, it is a suspension failure. So Da Costa's race is done. And they've shown some good pace, but it's about finishing races really. It's alright being quick, but when you're suffering mechanical problems like that on both cars, that can lead to relegation by the end of the season. And now that has promoted Will Power and Patrick Ward up to 4th and 5th places respectively. So we've lost 6 drivers from this race so far now. They're beginning to drop like flies. Hope we don't get too few finishers at the end of this one. And now we're looking at Nicholas Latifi, who's making a move on Patrick Ward into turn 1. And it's not involving Will Power this time, it's Nicholas Latifi getting past the arrows, and that is enough to move him up into 5th position. Now we're back on board with Van Dorn, who's 10 seconds behind Dixon on lap 12. Is Dixon running a lighter fuel load? I would guess to say no. I think it is genuine pace that he's setting in comparison to Van Dorn, but I could well be wrong. But it's looking very, very good for the Simtek team. They're looking like in a league of their own. It won't be too long before we start seeing pit stops. And then we look back at Marco Wittmann, who's under attack from Roy Nissany. And Nissany went for an over-ambitious overtake there into turn 7, which was not going to come off well. And so it was very lucky not to make contact. Now we look back to the leader of Scott Dixon, as he crosses over the line to complete another lap. Continues to set the pace over his teammate. Now the reserve driver for Simtek this season is the former British touring car driver Darren Turner. There's no news as to who their test driver will be for when the rookie test is coming round mid-season. Now we look back at Paul di Resta running very strongly up there in P3. Not under attack, but he's not attacking anyone at the moment, so he seems to be very content with where he is and how his race is panning out so far. There's Van Dorn, trying to keep up with his Kiwi teammate, the reigning champion of Season 2. Now they're coming towards turn number 9. And now we look back to see Regunathan, who's chasing after Grosjean. He's had a good race so far, has Regunathan. Running strongly. He was very much in the midfield at the start. He's certainly making up for it here. And just be happy to finish in the points and get some, whether it's a 10th place finish or a 9th place finish, it'll be a good start to the season for the 40 squad, of which Dave Goddard has been running since the season's inception 3 years ago. And we look at the Prost. I believe that is, I think that's Wittmann who's just going through the penultimate turn, or is that Markelov? I think that might be Markelov actually, thinking of it. As we look back at Paul di Resta, going through turn 2. And the race seems to be quieting down a little bit now. Drivers just settling into a rhythm, not pushing too hard too soon. I think Nicholas Latifi's overtake on Pato O'Ward has all but ended the scrap that they've been having lap after lap. And the next focus will be on the pit stop. So we are now on lap 14 of the race. We're about a third of the way through. And Scott Woodward, I imagine, will be over the moon with how his drivers are doing. He kind of expected his team to be running strongly up front, but is the car too good to even last the race in terms of reliability? Well, that's something we'll find out later as Pato O'Ward gets past Nicholas Latifi, and that is him up to 5th place again. And there's De Resta running in P3. No such problems for him so far. Of course, the Super Aguri are running their 2008 livery. That was the last livery they... Oh no, it's not the 2008 livery, it's their 2007 livery. My apologies. Of course, that was the livery of which Takuma Sato finished 6th in that classic Canadian Grand Prix of 2007. It was the team's best ever result in F1 history. Now we've just seen Latifi get back ahead of O'Ward at the hairpin before the end of the lap, and O'Ward seems to be fighting back. McGunnifan's got ahead of Lynn, and it's because Lynn has come into the pits. So Lynn is the first driver to make a scheduled pit stop. He'll fall to the back, but at least he'll have some clean air and an opportunity to start completing an undercut on some drivers and get into the top 10. Last season, Super Aguri, they picked up a number of wins along the way. Looking at how they did last season, Antonio Felix da Costa won the Hockenheim race. Although that's a regular circuit actually. And we've just seen a problem there for Nicholas Latifi. And his sterling effort is about to come to naught, unfortunately. So after dicing with O'Ward the last few laps, his race is about to come to a close. So that's the first BAR retirement of the season. And Latifi just needs to pull that car off in a safe location. And I'm just thinking, can he maybe try and get back to the pits? That is what he might be thinking so far, but no, he's going to pull to the side. It's too far away as the pits. Oh, he nearly took out the Midland. That might be something for later, but Latifi's come off the track and the wheel's fallen off. But that is his race run, unfortunately, for the Canadian. So there's the engine going on Latifi's car. Well, it looks like an engine problem, but it could well be a water leak. We'll find out in a moment what exactly is the cause of Latifi. And now we're looking back at Juanmo Correa because he had to take a little bit of evasive action to avoid the slow moving BAR. Oh, that was very nearly contact. There was very nearly contact there between the two cars. So Latifi may be going to the steward's room after the race for not pulling off sooner than he did. And it's an engine problem for Latifi, so thank you for the confirmation. So one BAR left in the running, that is Sean Galeo, who is up in P7. And talking of which, of Sean Galeo, he'll be having the opportunity to race at his home event at Sensul in a couple of rounds' time. There is what looks like the AGS going through there. Going back to the saying about Super Aguri, they won a race last season at Hockenheim with Antonio Felix da Costa, but I think that's the only race they'd won all season. But they did win a couple of races in season 1 when Timo Glock was there. And Roy Nissany getting past Marco Wittmann, so Wittmann not really making the most of a lot of the other drivers' misfortunes so far. There's Paul De Resta running up there in P3 for Super Aguri. fast right-handers of 7 and 8. He's got turn 9 to go through next. And willpower seems to be closing on him a little bit now. As we watch Sebastian Bourdais coming through. I think he locked up into turn 5 and was able to get the car back onto the racing line and continue. His teammate Kazuki Nakajima up there in 6th place. I wonder what Onyx's goals are for this season. They had a good back end of last season, considering where they ended up. They ended up with 3 victories. One at Istanbul in round 8, and the other's been in rounds 14 and 15, which were in Brno and Buenos Aires. As Nakajima locks up into the last turn, he's able to keep the car going. He's on his own pretty much there as he's continuing his pursuit of Pato Award. And yeah, he just missed the apex completely, if I'm honest, but hasn't lost him too much time. Lap 17 of the race, approaching half race distance in the first League One race of the season. It seems to be business as usual for Scott Dixon and for Simtek. And Juan Correa is the next driver to head for the pits. And Marco Wittmann is doing the same for Prost. A long way to go yet in this race. Of course, the season as well. 16 rounds it will be. Now, I mentioned Hockenheim has been a new venue. It's not a new venue for Season 3, but it's a returning one. There's a lot of brilliant venues which we are looking forward to racing at this campaign, both League 1 and League 2. Now we're right on board with Paul de Resta, 18 seconds off the lead, now over 19 seconds off lead, as we watch Colton Hurt in the AGS. IndyCar race. Been reasonably well so far, despite AGS seemingly not running that strong of a car in terms of what it's capable of doing compared to previous seasons. Of course, they won a race in Season 1 with Andre Lotterer in Marrakesh, and last season, when they had Pascal Wehrlein and Kevin Magnussen at the helm, they were able to win out. I think Kevin Magnussen won in Birmingham, which put a smile on the face of Phil Kinch, who I understand is no longer involved in the squad. AGS crew being managed by Lewis Bassendale, taking on 2 American drivers. One is Colton Hurt, the other is Tom Cruise. Marino Sato, I should say, is coming into the pits. Artem Markelov is in as well. So we're seeing more of the drivers at the back end of the field going for the 2-stop, presumably. And I think those at the head of the field are thinking more about the 1-stop. I've just noticed that Stoffel van Dorn has come into the pits, so I do apologise for not picking up on that. But he's out there in 11th position now, behind Roy Nissany. Now he's got to hope that he doesn't get held up by the Israeli. Otherwise, it could cost him later on when it comes to fighting it out with Paul de Resta for P2. Willpower getting the hammer down as well for Leighton House. Pato Award, 3 seconds off the Australian. And we're seeing Scott Dixon head for the pits now too. So we could well see a new race leader, unless Paul de Resta is going for the pits as well, which he is doing so. So the top 2. Oh, that's Wittmann spinning on the exit of turn 8. No harm done to the German, apart from his confidence, of course. And it's just gone in way too quick. Caught the curb on the outside, and that's what can happen when you ride the curb so heavily and the rears just spin up and don't really want to grip the circuit like you want it to. And so Wittmann rejoins as As we watch Will Power, who takes over the lead for now. Although Scott Dixon isn't too far behind. He's just left the pits as Scott Dixon. So we'll have a look at the gap. So we've just seen DeResta come in. We've got O'Ward coming in as well. We've got Bourdais in and McGunnathan. So the pit lane's getting very busy at the moment. As Will Power continues to lead the way ahead of Dixon. Nakajima up into third place on track. Van Dorn back up into fifth place. He's just got in front of Roy Nissani now, so that's at least that driver disposed of as far as Van Dorn is concerned. And Herta under threat from the, well, looks like the HRT of Alex Lynn. Getting past him and up into 9th position. And O'Ward trying to get through as well. And this is costing him time, being stuck behind the AGS. Is he going to go for it into turn 7? Don't think he got the move done on him, unfortunately, so he's going to have to sit in behind for now. We'll look at Will Power for a moment. No, we're looking at another driver because I think we've got an opportunity actually to look at how the battle between Herta and O'Ward panned out. And Herta rightfully turned in the way he did, and he keeps hold of the position. And O'Ward will have to bide his time whilst the pit stops are going on. Will Power continuing on in the race lead. He's not coming in just yet. I haven't had a look at what his fuel gauge is like, but I imagine he's only got a few laps left before he comes in for his only stop of the event. And we can see Paul DeResta in 8th position on track behind his teammate Robin Frines. He's just got through ahead of him whilst Frines is ducked into the pit. So nice teamwork there from Super Aguri to take Frines out of the equation and let Paul DeResta have a clean track to start homing in on Van Dorn, who rejoined ahead of him rather comfortably. So we watch Nakajima in 3rd position. Bourdais has already pitted. Nakajima has an opportunity to go further. He's got some good track position at the moment. I'm just trying to work out how much time you lose in the pits. Making a pit stop. We've just seen Dixon get past Will Power now and up into the race lead on track. He was going to get back into the race lead anyway because Power is still yet to pit. At least Dixon's not had to wait behind the Australian for too long. So it's business as usual. Will Power's yet to stop. Kazuki Nakajima's yet to stop. And Sean Galeo is yet to stop. Oh, that's a car off. That's Colton Herta. And it looks like the right rear has come off his machine. Now, how has that happened? Has he had contact with someone? Or has he lost it all by himself? We're about to have a look now. And that is Juanmanuel Correa, who makes contact with the AGS. And he takes him out. That's very unfortunate there for the AGS squad. That's both of their cars now out of the race. Now, Correa, who's already just pitted, came up behind the AGS. Up the inside. That was just really clumsy, really, from the American. And he just pitched Colton Herta off the racetrack. We'll have a look from Herta's perspective. Correa was up the inside going into turn 7. Should Herta have left him enough space? I mean, to be fair, from that angle, maybe he could have done, but it just looked too ambitious of an overtake for Correa to get done there, and that's resulted in Herta retiring on the spot, and Correa was very lucky to keep going. So Herta's first race in the Grand Prix World Series has ended in retirement. And Dixon has posted a new fastest up of the race on his new set of tyres. And we've just been told that following that collision, Juanmanuel Correa has been given a 1 race ban. He is deemed responsible for the collision with Colton Herta. And so Correa will miss the next race at Youngam. And because of that, the reserve driver of the Midland team, as Roy Nissani comes into the pits, Rio Haryanto will get a go at the machine in Yeonggam. So it's bad news there for Correa. His first experience of the Grand Prix World Series has not been a pretty one. He may feel that Hertz has turned in on him, and it may be something for the managers to appeal later on. Now there is a window in terms of from the moment the race has happened, so when the appeals close before the next race happens, someone may have a case on the collision itself that's resulted in Correa's ban. But he is, whatever happens here, he's being given a one-race ban, and that takes me on to my regulation for an incident like that. So colliding with another driver and causing him to retire is not only a race ban, but it's also a disqualification from the race. The number of races banned from it is dependent on how many drivers retire as a result of the collision. So if a driver takes out 2 drivers, they will receive a 2-race ban. So the fact it took 1 driver out, that is what Juan Correa did with Colton Herta, that is the reason why he's got the 1-race ban. But it's also a disqualification. Now, that may seem a little bit draconian, but the rules are the rules in terms of the revision in the regulations for this campaign, as Will Power comes into the pits as I speak. Now, just wondering where he'll get out. He'll want to get out in front of Pato O'Ward because he was the driver which he was racing with before the pit stops had begun. He's leaving the pits now, but I just wonder whether O'Ward will get ahead of him. I don't think he will. So Will Power will be joining 5th place on track. But going back to the saying about with Correa, he's picking up a disqualification and a race ban for the collision that's resulted in the retirement of Colton Herta. So that will have to be something for Alex Johnston to discuss with the stewards about, and maybe reduce the severity of the punishment before the drivers go to Yeonggam, as we watch Van Dorn get past Galeo into turn 9, and that is him through into P2, no problem. So Van Dorn up into 2nd place ahead of the Indonesian, as we watch Ryan Asani locking up in front of Robin Frines. Frines staying on at Super Aguri for another campaign. And now it looks like he's going to go for a move on Ryan Asani. Is it going to end in tears? Thankfully, it didn't. That's so nearly a carbon copy of the Herta Correa accident. Oh, that's Van Dorn! Well, it's as I feared. The pace was excellent from Syntec, but the reliability is still not there. It's almost like a repeat of Season 2. They haven't quite ironed out the problems yet. So Stoffel Van Dorn, who was running in a good 2nd place, is out of the Sepang Grand Prix in the League 1 race. Now, he's got to hope that doesn't happen to Scott Dixon. Otherwise, Scott Woodward is going to be tearing his hair out if he isn't doing so already. So Van Dorn pulls off. It looks like an engine problem for the Belgian, and he has gone from the race, and that's yet another retirement. I think I'm counting, I think that's 8 retirements from this race now, according to my memory. I know we've definitely got more than 15 left in the race, but it's not too much more than that from the 26 that started. As we watch Paul de Resta running in P2. He's running very well, is de Resta now inheriting the position as a result of Van Dorn's retirement. Will Power up to P3, Pato O'Ward in P4, and Alex Lynn, who was one of the first to pit for a stop. I think he might be on a 2-stop strategy, is Lynn, because of how early he pitted, but he's running up there in P5. So he's managed to complete an undercut on a number of drivers to get himself up there for HRT. So it's really looking very good for, well, I'll say it was looking for Syntec. It's a huge dent in their race so far, as de Resta will be doing his best, but we'll just have to hope for misfortune to strike Scott Dixon. He is to take victory on his debut for Super Aguri. Will Power picking up where he left off in League 2 last season, the reigning champion in that series. Could well be opening his season with a podium for Leighton House. Polderessa in P2, going very, very nicely. Nakajima safe. Correa 7th. Of course, he's carrying a disqualification and the race ban over him, subject to appeal. Romagoshan 8th, Shungley on 9th, and Sebastian Bourdais 10th. Now, if Correa's disqualification was to stand, Mahathir Raghunathan would take the final point. As we watch the Leighton House, that is Will Power, because his teammate Hele Kashnevis is already out of the race. So far so good for him, but will his car last the distance? 18 laps to go, including the lap he is on. Dixon has completed his 24th lap. He holds the fastest lap, which I doubt that it will be beaten by anyone between now and the end of this race. And regardless of what happens, they'll at least have got a point or two out of this sim set, but they'll want to be going for the maximum if they can. Well, they're not going to get that here because Van Dorn is already retired from the race. Looking further down, the 240s running 11th and 12th. Robin Frines for Super Aguri 13th. And then it's Marino Sato for Midland in 14th position, and it's the first of the two cross cars of Artem Marklov in 15th position. As we watch Pato Ward, who's trying to close back in again on Will Power. Not able to do much at the moment. He'll be happy with his effort though, Pato Ward. Just looking to see what he was up to last season, because I'm sure he actually got a go in a League 2 event. Unless it's actually his debut, believe it or not. It might actually be his maiden race in the Grand Prix World Series, you know. And if that's the case, he's doing a terrific job. Scott Dixon goes through turn 1 on lap 26. Will Power in P3. And there doesn't seem to be too many battles going on at the moment. The closest I know is between Nakajima and Correa for P6. And then just up ahead of him a couple of seconds further in front. And we've also got a battle for 10th place between Sebastian Bourdais and Mahathir Raghunathan. So as they come through, there's Frines on the inside of Roy Nissani now. And that's 12th position going to the Dutchman. So Nissani dropping back. Has he got anything to respond to Frines? Well, we've cut away from those two, but hopefully we'll receive an update as to how that battle has panned out. And we're just looking at Marco Wittmann, who will for sure be under investigation for the collision with Kamui Kobayashi. I would say if Juanma Correa's contact with Colton Herta has resulted in a disqualification on a one race ban, then I can't see why it should be any different. And to be honest, the incident between Wittmann and Kobayashi was a lot more horrific than the incident between Correa and Herta. As we watch Markov just locking up a little bit, outbraking himself, but keeping his car on the tarmac. He's not had too much to do in this race, from what we've seen from him. He's the only car behind Markov is, well, there's two cars behind him. His teammate Marco Wittmann and Adrian Sutil, who pitted in for a new front wing following the demise of... It's not Antonio Victor, so I was thinking of another driver who was not quite pulling off the circuit earlier on. It was Nicholas Latifi, that's probably what I was meant to be saying, who didn't get off soon enough. Dixon has now got a lead of over half a minute over everyone else. It was Helio Castroneves, my apologies, in terms of the engine blower he had. It's not Nicholas Latifi, but he did go off at the same corner as Castroneves did. But Castroneves was the one who was responsible for the contact with Adrian Sutil. I imagine he'll get a time penalty for it. Pato O'Ward is coming back into play again. He's closing in on Power for that final podium position. And we've seen Scott Dixon come into the pits. Now, is this a scheduled stop? Or has he got a problem? He's got a handsome lead anyway, so he should come out in front of Paul di Resta, and even if he doesn't, he'll get ahead of him on his fresh tyres. So di Resta coming down the pit straight now, and I think Dixon's already at pit exit, so Dixon will keep hold of the race lead as O'Ward goes into the pits for his second stop of the race. Now, is this to undercut Will Power? It's an audacious attempt, and O'Ward is going to have to hope that he gets out in some clean air. I think he will do that. Although, actually, Nakajima and Galea have been tussling. That might be because Correa's come into the pits at the same time. Grosjean in also, Ragunathan and Bourdais. So those who have pitted in the early phase of this race are coming in for their second stops now. At least Scott Dixon has an opportunity to strengthen his hold on the fastest lap. So O'Ward has come out. Where's O'Ward come out? He's come out in 9th position. I'm just waiting for the gaps to update. He might be stuck behind Marino Sato. He's only a couple of seconds up from him, so he's got a bit of time to make up on Sato. Now, will Power respond to O'Ward coming in for a pit stop? So imagine that O'Ward is going to be making light work of all the cars that have got less fresh tyres on them than what the Mexican has. As we watch Will Power, is he going to come into the pits at the end of this lap? No, he's not. He's carrying on. So he feels that staying out another lap or two will be the best strategy here. As di Resta comes in for his second stop of the race, that allows Will Power to go through. Now, will Alex Lynn and Kazuki Nakajima get ahead of him? That won't be an ideal scenario for Paul di Resta, as we see a lock-up from Juan Manuel Correa, who, if they do get a top 10 finish out of this, there's no question to my mind that Alex Johnson will appeal the decision. Behind Correa, we're seeing Romain Grosjean making a move on Adrian Sutil for position. Now Lynn's in the pits now, as is Sato, so at least O'Ward won't need to battle it out with Sato. Wittmann also coming in. I doubt that the Prost team are going to be coming away with anything from this one unless we see any more retirements involving those up ahead of them. Just 9 drivers out of the race so far. Well, I say just 9. It must feel like an incident-packed race so far. This opening round of the season here in Sepang. Wonder if it will host Formula 1 again in the future. That will be that will be something for the future, should there be any funding put in place for it. 19 times that this circuit has hosted a Formula 1 World Championship Grand Prix event, from 1999 to 2017. I think it's back hosting the a round of the Asian Le Mans series this year, which is great to see. Will Power in P2 at the moment, 14 seconds behind Dixon. Nakajima third, Galeo fourth. De Resta is in 5th place after his pit stop. I don't think it'll be too long before he gets to the rear of Galeo. There is Dixon, the sole surviving Syntec, aiming to go the distance here. And we see an engine problem. That is Robin Frines by the look of it. So that is one of the Super Egos out. There's always, and the car's ablaze as well. So Frines needs to get off the circuit as quickly as he can. And he's carrying on by the looks of it. The next car behind him, I think is it a Prost that's behind him? Marco Wittmann, I think it is. I think it's the only driver behind Frines. So Frines will get off the track very, very shortly. Should do it into turn 1 if I'm honest with you. He's not making it any easier for himself carrying on the way he's doing. So Frines should pull off the circuit now. And he's going to do so on the right hand side. So Robin Frines kickstarts his season in retirement and nearly taking out Wittmann in the process. I don't think he held him off too much, but it's not an ideal scenario anyway. So there we go, that is Frines out of the race here in Sepang. Another engine problem for him. The race leader Scott Dixon is 11 laps away from victory. He's the most successful Grand Prix World Series driver in history. He arrived in the Grand Prix World Series mid-season in Season 1 following the departure of Marcus Ericsson. It's very, very good for him indeed to collect 25 points for the win. See Nakajima running in 3rd place for Onyx. He's only stopped once in this race. Sean Galeo is the same, so I wonder if those two will be pitting again before this race is over. They may not do. I think they may be going on a one-stop, you know. Going back to what I was saying about Scott Dixon. He's won 4 races in his career. Sean O'Fern has got the same. And Scott Dixon has done more races than Fern. I think the only drivers to have competed in every single round of the Grand Prix World Series are Kamui Kobayashi, Andre Lotterer, Nico Hülkenberg, Alexander Rossi and Paul de Resta. Paul de Resta has raced for Mastercard Lower in Season 1, Midland in Season 2 and Super Aguri in Season 3. So it's the 3rd different team for Paul de Resta in this camp in the Grand Prix World Series. He's got some work to do because he's got Sean Galeo and Kazuki Nakajima in his way and a podium finish. He's got 10 laps to go. It's not a lot of time for the Scotsman to make a move, get back into the top 3 again. You can see the list of retirements so far: Frines, Van Dorn, Herta, Latifi, De Costa, Verne, Juncadeo, Cruz, Castroneves and Kobayashi all out. 10 are gone from this race, 16 are running from the 26 that started. As we look back at the Leighton House, looking very, very good for a podium in P2. Looks like Roman Grosjean is going to salvage a point for the Manor team, unless Mahivira Gunnathan has something to say on that. We're looking for the battle for. We're looking at the battle for P3 because Nakajima's got Sean Galeo and Paul Di Resta right on his tail. I think Di Resta is close to getting past Galeo, then Galeo is on Nakajima, and that's the battle we need to be watching. Now we are watching it as Galeo tries to hold off Paul Di Resta. You can see the amount of pressure that Di Resta is putting on the Indonesian, hence the lock-up. And I think Di Resta is going to make a move now for 4th position. So there goes the Super Aguri past the BAR. And it's a position gained for him. And we've got Grosjean off the circuit. So that's the second manor gone. And not sure exactly what the issue is. It could well be a transmission problem for the Frenchman. So Sam Hall will be leaving this round with no points to his name. Or to Grosjean, or to Kobayashi. And it's a transmission problem for Grosjean, so I did call it that. Grosjean retires from the League 1 race in Sepang. 15 are left. Once Adrian Suter's gone by, you'll see him on the classification, and the 15 drivers you'll see on your screen are all the runners we've got left. Dixon continuing on. And he'll soon be coming up behind Adrian Sutil to lap him. He's on the back straight at the moment, but we'll want to look back on the battle for 3rd place, and it looks like Paul Di Resta is going to make a move on Nakajima in a moment. It's Kazuki Nakajima. Raced in Formula 1 for the Williams team from the back end of 2007 to the end of 2009. Best finish of 6th, I believe. And that was in his 2nd Formula 1 race, and that was in Melbourne in 2008 in that race of attrition. The Grand Prix World Series so far for him. Nakajima. Last season, as we watch Di Resta going for a move on Nakajima into the last turn. It's the same move as what Di Resta did on Galeo on the previous lap. And that is the Scotsman back up into P3. A long way behind Willpower, so I doubt that Di Resta will make amends on the Australian unless something happens to the Leighton House car or even the Simtech up front. Now, what I was going to say about Nakajima in terms of his performances last season. I'm sure he did the whole campaign from, and he picked up a podium in the 2nd round in Adelaide. He's picked up a few 4th place finishes along the way. So it was a respectable campaign from the Japanese driver, but we had hopes for more. I want to work together with Bourdais to ensure that they do finish the season strongly and build on their 3rd place finish of last season overall. Now on lap 34. The gap between Di Resta and Power, something like 17 or 18 seconds. Correa running in 9th, will be carrying under disqualification over him, and a race ban. Like I say, it is subject to appeal. Closest battle we've got on track now, I would say, is between Nakajima and Galeo for 4th position. O'Ward is another 7 to 8 seconds off them, so it looks like 6th place is going to be where he ends up by the end of all of this, unless Nakajima and Galeo continue to battle amongst themselves. Dixon, your race leader, continuing on course for win number 5 of his career in the Grand Prix World Series, which will make him the most successful race winner of all time. It seemed like a long time ago since Jean-Eric Vergne had pulled out, but it looks like he could well be having a much more successful season. There's a problem for Marco Wittmann by the looks of it. Is he going to be able to get back to the pits, maybe? No, I think that's his race as good as done, I think. Unless he's able to get back to the pits remarkably. He was carrying a transmission problem, but remarkably, because of where he was on track, he was able to get it back to the pit lane. Good on him. So the Prost team will be going to work on the car. There we go. On the marks. No need to add any more fuel in. It's going to be a long way off Adrian Sutil, so it's just a matter of getting to the end of this race now for the German. And who knows, if he's quick enough, he might go for the fastest lap. He rejoins just behind Willpower. Dixon carrying on over 22 seconds in front, and here's an overtake about to happen from Sean Galeo. He's up the inside of Kazuki Nakajima, and is that the Indonesian through into the top 4? It is. So there goes the BAR driver. It goes up ahead of the Onyx driver, and that is Galeo up into P4, which will put a smile on Will Knight's face by the end of this, as Wittmann tries to get, well, he's trying to unlap Willpower, and he very nearly took him out into turn 7. Now, it's not against the rules to unlap drivers, but if he ends up taking someone out, like he did with Kamui Kobayashi, he could well be in trouble later on. Or even more trouble. As was Nakajima, as he nearly took out Galeo as they went into turn 7. We might get a replay of that, but that was so nearly contact between the BAR and the Onyx. We're looking at Mahafir Raghunathan, who's running in a strong 10th position for 40. As it stands though, with Correa's disqualification, he'll move up into 9th place. There's Willpower and Marco Wittmann. Now if Wittmann's going to overtake him, he needs to do it cleanly this time. And he's about to do so. Power won't like this because he'll want to be closing down Dixon in case something happens to the Simtech. But Wittmann has unlapped himself from the late now. He's on fresher tyres after all, so I can understand him completing the overtake. But that was so nearly curtains for both him and for Willpower. And nearly the same for Galeo and Nakajima. So we've got 5 laps to go in this race now. Is Dixon going to be able to bring the car home? It's been quick so far. Reliability has already hit the Simtech team in this round, with Stoff Van Dorn retiring with an engine failure. Dixon will hope that he'll not suffer the same fate. Let's watch Paul Di Resta, who's 15 seconds behind Power. He'll be happy with this result. Will Di Resta, so will the Super Aguri manager Michael Gillespie. And we look further back, that looks like the HRT of Alex Lynn closing in on Ryan Yasani in the battle for P7. Correa's a little bit further behind. There is your race leader continuing on, having no such issues thus far. He goes through turn 4. Seems to be in command as we go back to Paul Di Resta. You can see that he's pulled away significantly from Galeo and Nakajima since he completed those overtakes. Doesn't look like he's going to have the pace to close in on the Leighton House ahead. I think third is as good as what he's going to be able to achieve here in Malaysia. Ryan Nissany is only half a second ahead of Lynn. So we watch Dixon. The penultimate turn, he'll have 3 laps to go at the end of this one. So we've got Simtech, Leighton House, Super Aguri, VAR, Onyx, Arrows, 40, HRT, Midland and 40 in the top 10 respectively. If we take Korea out of that, it'll put Bourdais into the top 10. So I think that's a total of 8 different teams in the top 10. Essentially scoring points in this League 1 race. We can see Lynn dive into the inside of Roy Nissany into turn 9, and that's 7th position going to the Brit. We're just about to see a replay of the overtake, and Lynn up the inside of the Israeli, and Nissany just had no answer to it. So Lynn, having a cracking race so far, is up into P7, and he's over 12 seconds off Patrick Ward in 6th. So I think Lynn just needs to bring the car home now, and HRT will begin their campaign in League 1 with some points on the board, just like Leighton House. There's Dixon. It's going well at the moment, but the race isn't over until the checker flag is out. We've got a 16-round championship in Season 3, just like we had in Season 2, albeit some circuits have joined, others have fallen by the wayside. We do make sure we choose the best circuits for the Grand Prix World Series. Of course, the Sepang International Circuit is a very popular one with the fans and drivers. It's a grueling circuit. It's one of the most exotic and one of the most humid races you could compete in. As we watch Willpower come through the last turn. And how far is Wittmann up ahead of him? Because he unlapped him a number of laps ago. I would assume he's pulled away from him. There's De Resta crossing over the line to begin his penultimate lap. 15 points seem to be going in the way of Super Aguri. Great news for Michael Gillespie. Robin Frine's already out of the race. Inside De Resta. Could he call himself a championship contender yet? It is still very much early days and a lot can happen. You have to consider those that dropped out of this one. Stoffel van Dorn, the 2 Minardis that dropped out earlier on after a brilliant qualifying and race before both of them suffered engine failures or mechanical problems anyway. It's not over until the checker flag, as I've already mentioned. But it's Scott Dixon is on course for his 5th Grand Prix World Series victory, the first driver to achieve that milestone. He's already picked up pole position for the race. Looking on the old time stats, today's pole position is the 9th of his career. If he takes the fastest lap, which he's on course to, it'll be fastest lap number 10 of his career. That's how brilliant of a driver he is in the Grand Prix World Series and what Scott Woodward has done for him. Well, it's the last lap then. Dixon on course for victory. Willpower in his League 1 debut on course for P2. As we watch Sebastian Bourdais locking up into turn 9, getting away with it, I should say. But it's been a sterling effort from Scott Dixon. And Sean Galea will be happy to finish 4th. He'll be delighted with that position on his Grand Prix World Series debut for BAR. Dixon is through turn 11. He's got 4 more corners to get through, and the checker flag will be in sight for him. What a way to kickstart the defence of his title. Scott Dixon showing why he is still the class of the field. Simtek will be disappointed with Van Don's non-finish, but at least they're still going to be opening with a race win, pole position and fastest lap to go with it. Scott Dixon round in the last turn. He's going to open his account for season 3 with the win here in Sepang. Scott Dixon wins the League 1 race. He wins the Sepang Grand Prix in brilliant style. Simtek will be over the moon. Manager Scott Woodwis will be over the moon. We want to go back to Will Power, who's nearly half a minute behind. But for Chris Cavaney, the team manager of that team, he'll be happy with a podium finish. There he is, Will Power, the reigning League 2 champion, comes home in 2nd place here in Sepang in League 1. And further behind, we're going to see Paul de Resta on his Super Aguri debut, kickstarting his time with the Japanese team in 3rd place. A great start for their new manager, Michael Gillespie. De Resta 3rd, Sean Galea will be 4th. Good points for BAR. Kazuki Nakajima 5th. Pato Award on debut in 6th. And another 13 seconds back is Alex Lynn for HRT. They get some points in their first race in League 1. Lynn 7th. Roy Nisani 8th. Juan Manuel Correa currently hanging a disqualification over him is 9th. Then we've got Mahavir Raghunathan in 10th. Sebastian Bourdais will cross over the line 11th, but with Correa's disqualification will move up to 10th, so Raghunathan will be 9th. Sato, Markelov, Sutil and Wittmann, who's already crossed the line a lap down, are the rest of the finishers just outside the points. So we see Marina Sato cross over the line in P12 on track. Markelov and Sutil crossing over the line after that. But it's a race win for Scott Dixon here in Malaysia. And running through the results of the race as well, I will mention there is a disqualification for Marco Wittmann for the contact with Kamui Kobayashi on the opening lap. So he will be disqualified from the event and also carrying a 1 race ban for the next round in Yeongnam, South Korea. And he will be replaced by Nico Prost in the Prost team as well. And what a brilliant race it was from everyone concerned, and what a way to kickstart the League 1 campaign.
Straight back to winning ways for Scott Dixon, who picks up a perfect score in the first round of Season 3 of the Grand Prix World Series. The win, the pole position and the fastest lap. What a way to kick off your title defence. Huge congratulations to Dixon. Congratulations to Scott Woodwis for taking the first win of the season. It's been a fascinating beginning to the Grand Prix World Series Season 3. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you join us next time when we will be racing at the Yeongnam Circuit in South Korea. That promises to be another fantastic event. Hope to see you all there. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.